I'm back.
Oh yeah, sorry. Yeah, it's been a while. We are here for a Patreon request video. Very rusty.
Yeah.
But not like the Dalek. We are here for a Patreon request video from Azmat Mahmood.
What a great name.
Yes. So yeah, that's why you're back, because you've actually been demanded.
Just when I thought I was out, they pull me back in. No, I'm happy to be back.
Yes, hopefully for the long term. Patreon.com/Genesis of Androzani. If you'd like to contribute to the channel, we have multiple tiers, such as the Timey-Wimey tier, where you get early access and exclusive access, and the Master tier, where you get to request videos for us to do, such as this one.
Haha, good segue. I'm back, by the way.
Yes, so we're just mentioning that we do actually do the ones that are requested, including this one, which was only requested like a week ago.
Yeah.
So, you know, we are reliable sometimes. Though don't request us to do anything like if someone said to me, oh, my request is to have Jake on a reaction, I'll be like, well, that's a bit complicated.
If we could, we would. But life's complicated.
But, yeah. Check out Patreon. Twitter.com/Giandrozani. Banter and stuff.
Shit stirring.
Yeah.
Shit stirring.
Yeah,
He's a shit stirrer.
it's fun.
It's all him. It's not me. He's a shit stirrer.
Yeah, obviously I got into an entanglement with Rob Sherman. Yeah. And sometimes when I there's a particularly memorable moment in any of our reviews, particularly if it's a tangent, I tend to put sound bites or clips on Twitter. Like recently when I put a clip of Callum's rant on Series 7 from X-Men Apocalypse.
Yeah.
Because some people that don't know anything about X-Men probably wouldn't watch that video. So I just picked that up and dropped it there. So yeah, Twitter's a nice little thing, and it's good conversations we have on there, even if they are a bit feisty.
No, but usually, especially when it comes to the polls about who's cooler, and the Third Doctor always wins. You know, we've harboured a good group of people, because you're right, the Third Doctor is the best.
Yes. Yes, and apparently Series 7's worse than Season 24, so...
Interesting.
Yeah.
I can't say until I've seen it with Jake.
That's true. Because, yeah, we haven't actually seen Series 7 ever, have we?
Never. No, I have no preconceived...
The Crimson what?
Huh?
Anyway.
Yeah.
Without mucking around any further, the requested Patreon video from Azmat Mahmood, I hope I've said your name right, is to compare each Doctor's first season and rank them. So...
Okay.
I will read out the message he sent me on Patreon regarding this for the details. Compare each Doctor's first season / series, because there's a difference, and rank them from best to worst. Compare the different approaches writers took to establishing a new Doctor, and whether they were completely successful by the end of the year, if they went heavy in returning monsters or tried to do something completely different, whether they went for a lighter tone or something darker, the different types of story styles, like the gritty realism of Season 7 or the whimsical fairy tales of Series 5. You could also compare the performances of the Doctors to one another and work out who settled into the role the quickest. So yeah, that was the request. So I've sort of written myself a guide here so I can go back to it and sort of bounce and sort of ask the same questions for each one.
Yep.
So we've got to start, obviously, at the beginning with Season 1 for William Hartnell.
Hey.
So this is a bit of a weird one, because it's obviously the first ever season, so it's not really anything that's different, it's just new.
Yeah.
Everything is new.
Yeah, but the interesting thing about that is part of his whole, part of the whole mission statement, as far as we can glean, was the fact that he was supposed to be a mystery. Hence the name of the fucking show.
And that is the style, well, not the style, hang on. Where's the word? It's right there. That's the approach that the writers took in establishing this new Doctor.
Yeah. In
the sense that he is literally a new character you've never seen before.
And the thing, it doesn't start from his perspective. We walk into his world.
Exactly.
He's supposed to be an enigma.
Yes.
That slowly got unraveled over time.
I think one of the biggest misunderstood things people have about the first Doctor is the whole, he's a grumpy old man. But that only comes from an underdeveloped view of the show, because if you only watch the beginnings box set, then you sort of have a very skewed view on the First Doctor usually.
Yeah.
Despite the fact that I think he's brilliant. Because Marco Polo's missing, there's kind of a stump in the viewing experience for someone who's watching it now. Especially considering how different he is to especially New Who Doctors.
Yeah.
And even the rest of the show. It can be quite alienating, literally and figuratively, to watch First Doctor if you've already seen something else. But I think as a new concept, if you were to watch this when it aired as intended, it would be, I think, that's the reason why the reception at the time was excellent. I honestly don't think the First Doctor even got any negative reception until there was variance.
Yeah, well, that's the thing, is it came off so hot and so fast. Like, it was just, from all accounts that I have read and heard of people who were there, including members of my family, it was just a shock to the system. It's just not what you saw on evening TV. It just, the realm of that kind of out there, bizarre science fiction just didn't, like, there were science fiction shows forever. Like, even before television was a thing, when they were just serials, Flash Gordon and Buck Rogers before feature films in the 30s.
Yeah.
And up until
and you
50s.
had the Twilight Zone as well, which was another big...
Yeah, exactly. But even then, that's American. So in England, like, I think in the 50s, there may have been, like, Quatermass, or were those films?
Oh, yeah, that's a big influence.
On the John Pertwee era.
Yeah.
But I can't remember, because I think there were Quatermass films as well, but I think that's... I'm not hugely familiar with Quatermass.
The Quatermass Experiment TV serial is the origin.
Yeah.
But that's all missing, which is a bloody shame.
Yeah. But yeah, so like it was just like a shot in the arm to television as a whole, and bringing it more specifically onto the Doctor himself.
Yeah.
In his first season, he is a mystery. So he's being a first-time viewer, obviously with the 50 years of history that came after it, watching it again, it's kind of like, well, he's actually quite a gentle soul under there.
Yeah,
but
the thing is, even in retrospect, I like the fact that Doctor doesn't start out perfect.
No, because he's boring.
Exactly. Like, it's actually a very flawed character, and the fact that we get a sense of growth with the First Doctor, especially in the first season, I think is actually much better than just starting out like... Imagine if you watched New Who and then you started the classic Who and he was just the way he is then. It just wouldn't feel the same.
And there would also be a lack of motivation to go through the Doctor's story as well. Granted, obviously they didn't know that he was going to even regenerate, but there was the fact that he's so starkly different to what the Doctor has become known as now. It's really interesting to go back and watch.
Yes.
And as you said, the fact that he's a flawed, alienating, sort of, and to begin with, a very antagonistic kind of character, it makes him captivating.
This is one of the things about the very first episode.
Excuse me.
The very first episode on An Earthly Child is... It's quite a shock going from New Who to there. Because, one thing that I noticed, I was thinking about it when I saw someone's reaction to An Unearthly Child who'd only seen New Who. They were saying, I'm really intrigued to see who the villain is of this episode.
Yeah.
And it turns out it's actually the Doctor.
Yeah,
He is the villain of the first episode. So, which is, that's quite an ambitious thing to do.
Yeah, well, because for a show being named after him, it's like... I don't know, what else? Like... an adventure show. Like, it's like if they made, I don't know, something like the Young Indiana Jones Adventures TV series, but they made him the bad guy to begin with. Like, he was, because Indiana Jones is kind of like a bit of an antagonistic guy anyway, because that's just his nature. He's scrappy. But if they made him like dangerous to those who are portrayed as the protagonists, that's kind of there's a feeling of unease with the Doctor in the first season. He definitely warms subsequently, but because we're just talking about the first season, there's a danger to him, which makes him captivating. And obviously William Hartnell's performance as well, it's really strong.
Well, the fact that in the second episode he's willing to kill a caveman, and Ian's absolutely shocked by this. He's like, who are you?
Yeah, the Doctor thinks nothing of life at this point. Which obviously retroactively was written as immaturity because he was so young.
Yeah.
But because.
And also one thing I love is even though it's completely a retcon and unintentional, but the fact that in Survival, the Seventh Doctor does the same thing where he wants to kill the Master with a rock, but thinks better of it. It's like that's 26 seasons of character development. Now he's not going to do it.
Yeah, and then the Master's going to look at him with cat eyes. It'll be a fun time for all.
But also the fact of the First Doctor's development doesn't come at just a random decision by the showrunner. It's actually intended by. It's done intentionally, and his changes come from the adventures and the characters, especially Ian and Barbara.
Yeah.
I think that is a very... it's one of the best ways to do development is based around the characters.
Well, of course, because if there's the whole thing about storytelling has to be motivated by characters' choices. They can be in a world where things are thrust upon them, but they should be presented with choices, and often there should be a fix to the choices. Do you choose column A? Do you choose column B? And throughout all these stories there are those moments, and often the Doctor's off in his own world kind of leading the charge in many respects, but he endangers people and he starts to learn empathy. Is sort of like, it seems that was the intention. That I don't know if this was always their intention or if it was because the BBC higher ups were like, you can't have him be so cruel. And his growth, he softens, his edge softens. He still is quite cantankerous and, again, antagonistic by the end of the first season, but he's still...
There's a scene in the Sensorites where he says, this has become quite a great spirit of adventure.
Yes, that's the opening scene, I think.
Mm-hmm.
And they're sort of, they're being jovial and fun. But you also see that he's still got that edge to him.
Yeah.
But he's grown.
Yeah, and were they successful by the end of the year? I'd absolutely say so.
We wouldn't be here. This channel wouldn't exist if it wasn't.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and the weird question is this will tie into every other one we do.
Yeah.
But the question of did they go heavy on returning monsters? The thing is, there was. It's not possible. Like they're all new, and what did you get? You got the Daleks.
Yep.
You got You got the TARDIS as a villain as well.
Yes.
In Edge of Destruction. You got the Vord. You've got the Sensorites.
Yes.
And then all of the historical characters too.
Yeah. Because that was part of the big angle as well as being educational as much as it could be. Obviously, Verity Lambert kind of pushed it away from that while Sydney Newman was like, the fuck?
Yeah.
But it worked.
No silly tin robots.
Yeah.
Pow pow.
No BEMs. No bug-eyed monsters. That's my generic American producer voice.
And then Terry Nation made the Daleks, and here we are.
Yep.
But yeah, I've all new villains, and they were all great, basically. Apart from the cavemen, I'd say the cavemen were a bit shit, but
and I think that's a general sort of agreement. But the thing is, Dalek Mania, it especially coming, obviously it'd been about 28 years or so. I'm not sure, I can't remember off the top of my head, but they were evoking the Panzer, is that the right term? The Nazi tanks in World War II. That was that was still a very raw nerve for England and Europe, and the world. So the fact that there were these alien monsters on this family show that represented the Nazis, and it was terrifying.
And then you add on top of that the atmosphere of the dead planet with the way it's shot and the way it's scored.
Yeah, God, yeah.
And the way the characters react to it.
There was a certain thing about it being so stripped back created really powerful and magnetic atmospheres.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and in terms of the tone, I can't specifically say if it's light or darker because it's really not any of that. It's more adventurous, I'd just say.
Yeah, well, like any adventure, there are moments where they go into the darkness, and then there's light relief, and then there's
it's
there's
very
scary
balanced,
scenes,
I'd say.
and there's action scenes, and it's usually running down hallways because BBC budget in the 60s, but
yeah,
granted that hasn't changed much in 50 years.
It's adventurous. It's light because it's got fun parts, but it's dark because it's dangerous.
Yeah,
dangerous in the way that you would actually feel on a real adventure. This era of the show very early on one of the only ones where you can actually say in every story the characters might die here.
Yeah.
There's no plot armor. It's very real.
Yeah. Absolutely.
And that's the tone I would say it goes for. In terms of performances, well, I've got to say, Hartnell obviously has episodes where he takes holidays, obviously, because of his age and his illness. But in terms of when he is on screen, he is a very captivating presence.
Yeah. There's that whole, again, that enigmatic thing about him where he just sort of walks into a room and your eyes go on him and he sort of controls the scenario just with his presence. He's great.
Yeah.
William Hartnell's great.
Oh, yeah. He's brilliant and underrated.
Yes.
Absolutely excellent. So, yeah, I think basically season 1 is, as a first season, we're starting well. We're starting very well.
Absolutely. As I said before, we wouldn't be here if it wasn't.
Because even though I do understand that someone in the modern sense might find it boring.
Yeah.
I think the only actually not well executed story in that whole season is just the caveman episodes.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah. It's a really strong first season.
Yeah.
It's just a shame it's front loaded with kind of messy storytelling, but that it quickly gets over that.
But that being said, though, even though the caveman stuff is shit, the character stuff in it is actually very good.
Oh god, yeah.
Yeah.
And obviously, the Unearthly Child's first episode is just
perfect.
Brilliant. Brilliant. So good.
Yeah. So yeah, thumbs up. That means we must move on to the next one, right?
Yeah.
Unless we got something else to say.
No, I think that's good. Okay,
season 4. Patrick Troughton's first. Interestingly, he came in the third story rather than the first. So there's it's. I do like that though because there's a sense of unpredictability to it.
Yeah.
The fact that Hartnell got 2 stories and then regenerated.
Yeah.
It's weird, but it's good.
I like it a lot. Yeah. Just the fact that he came out and he was so different.
Yeah.
They didn't want to just be like, oh, it's the same man.
Yeah, like I can imagine if they went for that approach, it would be like they would hire like a Richard Herndl to do an impression of the first Doctor. And people were like, nah, it's not the same.
No, it's not. It's lost some of its magic. So they're like, okay, let's let Patrick Troughton be Patrick Troughton. And wow.
Yeah.
Wow, it just worked. Lightning in a bottle. It's incredible casting.
The thing is, it's interesting because, like you say, he's different, but Power of the Daleks, same way with Hartnell and An Unearthly Child, he's actually very enigmatic.
Yeah.
You don't really know what's happening.
Well,
and on the surface, it seems like he's being very silly, but he's not. He's actually quite devious.
Well, that's the thing is, he has a more youthful exuberance to him, obviously, but he there is again, like Hartnell before him, there is an edge that they sort of. It's not in the forefront. He's got a tremendous amount of warmth, but he's playing people. He's conning them. That's the thing. He's lulling them into like. Have you ever watched Columbo? It's an old American detective series where the detective he walks around and he's all slobbish and he has a cigar and he goes up to people and he pretends like he's really dumb. And he asks them question after question, pretending to be really dumb. So he lowers their sense of security. He says, oh, and just one more thing. And then he springs it on them, this piece of evidence which they've contradicted because they just keep talking because he gets people talking.
Yeah.
It's kind of like that, only much more high energy, though Columbo is great. But yeah, Patrick Troughton's, he is very enigmatic.
Yeah, but that's funny because... like, in the Highlanders and the Underwater Menace, he's very weird.
Yeah.
And it's weird. It's kind of a difficult one to dissect because most of those episodes are missing.
Yeah.
But it's weird because it feels like when Matt Smith is very, very silly, like at his silly side, I'd say one example is in Cold War when he comes out the TARDIS wearing like sunglasses underwater.
Yeah.
There's a very similar scene in Underwater Menace, but it's the difference being it feels like Troughton he's almost not sure what's happening. Like, he's almost not aware.
He's just, Troughton is sort of like, so you know how Hartnell, because of his illness, would often sort of stumble over his words and sort of trail off. He'll be like, and sort of, his sentences would trail off. It's like Troughton is the physical embodiment of his mind trailing off.
Yeah.
Where it's just sort of like, well, what's this? What's this? Oh, I'm going over here. I'm doing this. He's just constantly moving without thinking, except he's thinking all the time.
Yeah.
He's super observant. He's kind of like Sherlock Holmes in that respect. It's just he's sort of quite, dives in head first without thinking.
Yeah, and also speaking about development, because obviously we watched and reviewed Macroterra earlier this year. It's interesting how he's kind of different in Season 4 than he is the rest of his run. There's a sense, from Power of the Daleks all the way up to Evil of the Daleks, he's actually changes quite a lot.
Yeah.
And then once you get to, basically everything from Tomb of the Cybermen to the War Games is the same. And that's not a bad thing, it's just that he basically had established himself by that point. But watching him in Season 4 is always interesting because he's slowly becoming his personality.
Yeah. It's growing into it, because it's growing pains, especially because in the canon of the universe, this is his first regeneration. So he's not sure how to take it.
Yeah.
So there's lots of growing. But obviously, that's more just the writer's room being like, what the fuck do we do?
Yeah.
And then Patrick Troughton just being like, well, I'll just do whatever I want because I'm Patrick Troughton and I'm wonderful. Yeah. I'm sure, obviously, he was much more professional than that. I'm being facetious. But he clearly was...
To be fair, his initial idea was to wear a turban and blackface. So you did kind of have to restrain him a little bit.
Oh my god. Product of the time. But oh god. That would not have aged well.
Like, he wanted to be as different as possible.
Yeah. Oh. But also the stories, obviously, whenever he worked with Pertwee, they loved each other, but Pertwee did not like the way he worked because he would always change the wording. The intention would always be the same, but Pertwee was like, that is not how it was written on the script. And Troughton was like, I'm just going to say the lines, okay? But you're not saying them. I wish I could have been in the room, like a fly on the wall in the production meetings for all those specials.
Now, were they successful by the end of the year? I'm not really sure.
Because it's hard to tell what their intention was by that point.
Yeah.
It's hard to say because once the his second season rolled round, you could tell they had a more solidified idea and he was more comfortable in the shoes and everything like that. So by the end of his first season, he was great and he was so confident and he was, well-rounded, but it still seemed a little bit unsure of the direction they were aiming at.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah,
It's interesting, really. I don't really know, because I only know what people think of Troughton now.
Yeah.
But knowing what they thought of him back in the day, that to me, I really don't know. I think it was... it's difficult because I think there was massive backlash, because obviously it's a recast and it's natural.
And that always happens. Yeah.
But at the same time, Troughton is so universally loved as the Doctor as well.
Yeah.
So I feel like the reaction would have been quite mixed.
Well, because there's, Clever Dick Productions, those brilliant documentaries on YouTube. He talks about people writing into the Times or whatever it was saying, this man's too much like a buffoon, he's too much like a clown, I can't take him seriously at all, he's not the Doctor. Basically, verbatim what people said when Baker rolled round, but we'll get to that. But yeah, I don't know how people's reaction was by the end of the season, but initially people really were... They retaliated against it. They didn't like it.
Yeah. Yeah, it's odd one, actually.
But he's brilliant. There's no denying he's brilliant. It's just that his subsequent series, he just took off. And that's when he was the Doctor. Because they usually each of them have a defining moment where it's like, that is their Doctor.
Yeah. Gridlock.
Oh yeah, talking about David Tennant's going to be interesting.
Yeah, we'll get to that, but we'll get to that later. But Troughton, Tomb of the Cybermen, or I would say I would say he gets over his silly phase in the moon base, but in terms of where his Doctor really hits into its 10 out of 10 high gear is Tomb of the Cybermen.
Oh god, yeah.
Yeah.
It's so good.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd agree.
Yeah. But I don't really know what the reception was like. I hope it was good, because I love season 4. Well, apart from the smugglers, but
Yeah.
that's Hartnell. But yeah, I know it's quite an odd era of Doctor Who, really.
Well, because it was growing pains. It was a change. It was a shift.
Yeah.
It was the show's puberty.
Yeah. And like whenever someone mentions Troughton, I never really think of him with Ben and Polly.
No, absolutely not. Everyone, it's Jamie. It's Jamie's the guy.
Yeah.
Also, I saw a guy at work today who was like the spitting image of
Fraser Hines.
Fraser Hines. Yeah.
Well, you said that to me before.
No. What I've said to you before is Fraser Hines actually came into my friend's place of work,
right,
and
yeah.
that was Fraser Hines because he was in New Zealand.
Oh, well.
And I was gonna visit her work earlier that day to say hi to her, but I was like, oh, I can't be bothered today. Then I found out fucking Jamie was there.
Yeah.
Oh well, it's fine.
But yeah, in terms of successful, I hope it was good.
Yeah.
Based on the ratings, I think it would have been okay, but that's going into the next topic. I think it might have something to do with the returning monsters.
Yes.
That being Power of the Daleks.
Yes.
The Moon Base.
Yes.
And Evil of the Daleks.
Yes.
Which, yeah, I think that
Heavy
probably has something to do with it.
Well, it's this sort of counterbalance thing because his Doctor was quite radically different. I think they wanted to have some sort of safety net to fall back on, which I think we'll find is a reoccurring thing.
Yeah. Though, I will say, that takes some balls, because the 10th Planet was in Season 4 as well. But they had the confidence to do another story in the same season with the same villain.
Yeah.
But
also, it may have been to do with budgeting and paying for new costumes. I imagine that probably has a fair whack of it.
Well, to be fair, they did actually have new costumes in the Moon Base.
True, they did it.
It's what was meant to be in the 10th Planet.
Yeah.
But we ended up getting the stripped back one in the 10th Planet, which is great.
Yeah, I love it. It's brilliant.
Yeah, but there's definitely something to be said about Power of the Daleks and Evil of the Daleks. Were big for getting people to watch it, especially considering that takes up like 13 episodes of season 4 as well.
Yeah, It's I think very much it's that the budgeting thing, as well as it's a familiar sort of blanket for the audience where they're like, okay, the protagonist may be different, but the antagonists are the same. That's familiar. That's safe ground.
Also, I just realised something.
What?
That was the same as Season 3 and Season 2. The Daleks took up like 13 episodes of each of those as well.
Dalek Mania.
Yeah, so there you go.
Because that was around the time that they made those Doctor Who and the Daleks.
Yeah. And Evil of the Daleks was meant to be their last appearance because Terry Nation was going to take it off and be its own little thing. Yeah. But then that didn't happen. Yeah. But yeah, so in terms of returning monsters, they did go quite heavy on that.
God, yeah.
But those stories are brilliant.
They are so good.
Yeah.
So I think that's sort of always been my philosophy is if it's a good story, then I don't think it matters if you've seen these villains recently.
And in terms of trying something different, this is when they phased out the pure historicals.
Yeah.
Because the Highlanders was the last one until Black Orchid, which was Troughton's second story.
Yeah. Because that's when they started to go, okay, the reason kids are watching this and the reason families are watching this is for the more fantastical elements, not for the educational side.
Yeah, and whilst I love the pure historicals, in some regards I feel like it maybe was for the better because of that, we got the Macra Terror and the Faceless ones as the like sort of brand new ones that they put in between Moonbase and Evil of the Daleks.
Where they were proper pulp sci-fi.
Yeah. I don't know what to say about the Underwater Menace though. That was something else. But
I love the Underwater Menace.
Yeah. What the fuck is that story?
It's great.
Underwater Menace would fit in like the 7th Doctor's era.
God, yeah. They probably have the same costumes as well.
Yeah. But yeah, there was definitely more of a move to the more sci-fi, and then in Season 5, every story except for Enemy of the World is a base under siege. So, yeah. In terms of the tone of season 4, I would say the move away from the adventure is evident.
Yes.
It's definitely more contained.
There's a sense of almost claustrophobia
Yeah.
in a lot of their stories.
Yeah.
Again, probably a budgeting thing.
Yeah.
But they, with what resources they had, created a tone, and that tone was a more claustrophobic one than what had come prior.
Yes.
Because yeah, I think so. Because I just think it seems like his first season was much more streamlined, if that makes sense. Like they just sort of, and I don't mean this as a slight, but it was narrowed down, was sort of stripped back in some respects.
Yeah, it's interesting. I also think they tried to go for a more horror element.
Yes, absolutely.
With the Sidemen, the Macra, and I'd also say the I don't know what the word name for the faceless ones. What are they called? The avatars? Is it the avatars? I can't even remember.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah.
Simulants or whatever.
Yeah. There's definitely more of a horror element.
Well,
and an attempted one with the underwater menace.
Well, it's that thing of Doctor Who's reputation kind of starting to influence the show itself, which is to be expected when you're that popular. You sort of you hear these criticisms. Well, not necessarily criticisms or the praise as well. You hear what people are saying.
There was criticisms of the pure historicals in season 3.
Yeah.
Especially with the gunfighters, which I don't understand because I love it.
It's great. But in terms of it being known as the hide behind your couch show, which why the fuck would you hide behind your couch? Hide behind a pillow.
Yeah.
Behind your
Now here's the thing. I could say that it's darker than season 1, but it's not darker than season 3. It's not darker than season 3.
No.
Because that's when we got the Daleks master plan and the massacre.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I don't think it's necessarily dark.
But
but
there's a difference between a sort of a grim tone and a horror tone. They're not the same.
Yeah.
And I think this went more for a sci-fi horror tone, and the season 3 had more of a grim tone.
Yeah. Let's have 3 out of 4 companions die in one story.
Sounds great.
Can't wait. Oh, Josh Nares did episode 7, 8, I think, of Daleks Master Plan. I think whatever Volcano is. But he did like his own reconstruction of it, and it's like a more high tech version of like a
Who Recons?
No, not that one. The loose cannon. It's like loose cannon, but more high tech and like 3D.
That's cool.
It's pretty cool. Like, if he manages to motivate himself to do the entire story, I'd happily do a reaction to it. And I'm sure he will, because the Daleks Master Plan is his favourite Doctor Who story. So I'm sure he will.
So if you're watching this, he'll do a reaction of it.
Yeah. But yeah. Story style, yeah, so more like sci-fi. Performances. So, as an actor, brilliant. In terms of as the Doctor, it took him 4 stories before he sort of got it, I think.
Yeah, he was always good.
Yeah.
But it just sort of, it took a while for him to settle in.
Yeah, it's not really until the Moon Base that you get a proper Doctor performance from him, I'd say.
Yeah, I'd agree.
Because his first 3 are very much formation, I'd say. And Power of the Daleks is great.
It is.
He is good. But it's more of a introduction to the new Doctor rather than... It's hard to describe, really. Because the way the story is written makes him mirror the Dalek.
Yeah.
In the sense that they are both on the exterior, what people think they are.
Yeah. But there's more going on underneath.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, I would say that because Hartnell very much straight away was a presence, his character development took a while, but in terms of his presence was there, whereas Troughton took a few stories for his Doctor to be realised and established.
Yeah.
And But they're slightly different. But in terms of acting, he was always there.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
100%.
But yeah, I honestly, just because obviously there are missing episodes, but if someone said to me if they wanted to watch Troughton, where would I start? I actually wouldn't start with 4. I'd start them with 5.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I think
it's just, it's not necessarily that it's better. It's just he is stronger, and it makes, if you're wanting to watch it for him, much better to start there.
And also, season 5 is much more structured like a typical Doctor Who season.
Yeah.
It's
easier to follow.
Yeah. Rather than 4, which is quite sort of scatty. Which doesn't mean it's bad, because it's very good. It's just as a season, it's quite weird. It's more like the individual stories that are brilliant. I think.
Yeah. That makes sense.
Have we said enough about season 4?
I think so.
Right. You know what's next?
No idea.
Season 7, Jon Pertwee.
Yes.
Where do we begin? I suppose the approach the writer took into establishing the new Doctor. So, completely different to anything we'd seen before. It's in colour, it's on Earth, it's grounded.
In Spearhead in Space, it's mostly shot on film.
Yeah, it's shot on film. There is no, TARDIS. It's not even companions, it's assistants and Unit, and he's working for Unit, and the stories are not, let's go on an adventure and discover this thing.
Let's have this thing come to us.
Yeah, have this thing come to us, and how do we deal with it?
Yeah.
And then which arguments ensue when it happens.
Yeah.
And that is what's great about season 7.
So good.
Especially, and think of a prime example of that, Silurians. The indigenous creatures of Earth.
Yep.
How do you deal with them? Mm-hmm. But they're feral. They're going to kill you.
Yeah.
So what happens? Brigadier wants to kill them. The Doctor wants to save them.
Yeah. It's just... And there was always the allegory, the political allegory and social allegory became so much more of a part of the stories in this season and Pertwee's whole era.
Yeah.
That was part of... I'm pretty sure that was part of the mission statement, was tell stories that you could strip away the alien elements and they would be about something. And it shows, and it's so strong, and it just... There's a mood to it that's just... There's a fun, there's an intrigue, there's a bit more of a real intensity to it.
Yes.
Because the other ones are, even though it's still science fiction, in fact, arguably more sci-fi than the others, in terms of, he's working with gadgets and they're aliens he's talking to on Earth, and, it's a bit more sort of, a bit disconnected from reality. But in terms of the interplay between the characters, I think it's when Jamie's a great character, and he's got layers to him. But the companions in Jon Pertwee's first season, they're people.
Brigadier Alistair Gordon, Lethbridge Stewart,
is a realised human being, and that's why they kept bringing him back. A, because he had great chemistry with all the Doctors, but also because he was realised as a human being, and that made the Doctor stand out more, because they weren't listening to the Doctor. He was an advisor, but he wasn't leading them on adventures. The Brigadier was kind of his manager, and the Brigadier didn't want to put up with any of his shit. We didn't have that kind of dynamic before. The Brigadier and the Doctor almost had a buddy cop relationship, and it's amazing.
Yeah. And talking about tone, obviously, as Matt mentioned in the question about the gritty realism of Season 7, this is the grittiest season of Doctor Who. It's almost... I would almost say it's lacking in humour intentionally to make it feel like it's real.
There's little bits and pieces, obviously, when
Yeah.
the Doctor first regenerates.
I would say Spearhead from Space does have a bit of humour. That one does. But especially something like the Ambassadors of Death.
Oh god, yeah. I mean, in the name you can kind of tell.
The Ambassadors of Death is so like almost dry, but obviously it's got its merits. But in terms of its tone, it's so dry and adult that it's almost difficult to like.
The thing about it that I really like is the show decided to age with its viewers, because it was still a family show at heart. But the people who were kids when 1963 was about now were, teenagers or young adults. And if they wanted them to keep watching the show, they had to age it up a bit. And the show matured. And it was still a family show, but there was more of a real edge to it.
Yes. And in terms of season 7 specifically, it has a lot more of an edge than the other Pertwee seasons, because obviously it had Derek Sherwin's idea going over it rather than Barry Letts, who went for a sort of more, you could almost say comic book style. It's still the same. It's pulpier.
Yeah.
And John Pertwee's Doctor actually changes quite a bit.
Yeah.
He becomes a lot more mellower and a bit more sort of friendly.
Yeah, in the first season, he's like a hardened, like, militaristic spy.
He's almost like antagonistic a little bit. Not like Hartnell, where he's dangerous. It's
he just doesn't have time for human beings.
Yeah.
He doesn't care. All he wants to do is bugger off.
Yeah, whereas you compare that 2 years later, like when he's singing Venusian lullabies with the Ice Warriors, like that's different.
Yeah.
Yeah. Season 7 is interesting how different it is to everything else in the whole show.
Yeah, because the thing is, prior to him and what came subsequently, except for maybe one other Doctor, you couldn't really put any other Doctor in his shoes in this series and make it work.
Yeah.
It's so specifically written for this Doctor, played by John Pertwee. Yeah.
Oh, and also talking about arcs, that's the season where he builds Bessie.
Yes.
Season 7.
Yes, that's right. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's just, it's...
But yeah, I think it's great how different it was.
It's what it needed. It's because if the show kept being in black and white and going on and fun, campy space adventures, even with the horror elements and the great scripts, it would have wore thin. Even with a great charismatic lead like John Pertwee, it would have wore thin. So completely flipping that on its head, and filming it in colour.
And I'm going to mention this because I have to. One of the things that led into it that helped introduce this was the War Games.
Oh god, yeah.
Because the War Games, with Derek Sherwin overseeing it, introduces these elements to Troughton. And obviously that story's fucking the best.
Yeah.
So with the War Games, why it's so brilliant. I've mentioned many reasons why it's brilliant, but one of the reasons why is because it starts out as that space adventure
and
that you'd expect, and turns into that political story that you'd expect from a Pertwee era story.
Yeah.
The fact that element was introduced in the finale of season 6 to blend and transition into season 7 was genius.
Yeah.
Because then in season 7 it hits you hard, and then talking about like monsters, the Autons, the Silurians, and the Parallel Universe Unit.
Yeah.
Like it is brilliant.
They're such good.
And I would even say the villains from Ambassadors of Death are like I've seen that story, and I honestly don't really know what to say about them. It's obviously comes from space, so it's very much like this is a threat, but it's not an alien threat in the same way that like something like E.T. is, where it's this alien comes to Earth and he's I'm green, big finger, magic. It's alien, but it's almost like a human-sized virus, and that's really smart, I think. You know?
Yeah. Yep. I've got things to say that I can't say now.
Okay, will you refer back?
Not in this video.
Oh.
It's going to be months away.
Okay.
I'm sorry. But bank it.
Okay.
You people who can't read my mind.
Yeah. In terms of the villains, they were all new and they were all great.
Yes. Absolutely. They were perfect for antagonizing Pertwee and Unit. They made use of Unit. Unit, even though, obviously there was specific characters, but Unit as an entity as a whole was like a presence in the whole thing. Brilliant. Really, really cool.
Yeah, and a risk as well. And also a risk considering Bob Holmes, who wrote the Crotons and the Space Pirates the year before, they're like, oh yeah, we're going to give you the first one.
Yep.
But it's Spearhead from space, so
that's great.
They must have read the script and like, yep, we're doing that.
That Bob Holmes, he's done some decent stuff.
Yeah. Rest in peace, Bob Holmes, and rest in peace, Terrence Dicks.
Yes, Terrence.
I would fully imagine because Terrence obviously came in for the War Games and became the script editor for the Pertwee era.
Yeah.
Because of that, I'd imagine the clashing of the two greats, the sense that Terrence Dicks' approval of a Robert Holmes script is why Spearhead from Space works the way it does.
The script editing by Terrence Dicks it's just this perfect melding of worlds. Interestingly
though, because that's an example of when like Robert Holmes as a writer and Terrence Dicks as a script editor worked, because it's like it's interesting how during the Pertwee era that's how it worked, but then when it was flipped, it was a bit like when they did it the other way around and with the Brain of Morbius, they didn't work as well.
Yeah.
So I find that interesting. It's almost like, and that almost gets me thinking of like, would that be what it's like if Moffat was showrunner for RTD's writing?
Yeah.
Because they were swapping roles that were once in reverse.
Yeah, it's interesting. It's like, Terrence Dicks was a great sieve of ideas, where Robert Holmes was like, here, have all of the baking powder. and Terrence Dicks was like, no, you only need a little bit. Yeah. Don't worry about that.
Well, the thing is,
just sieve it through.
The great thing about like season 10, because I love season 10, is that Terrence Dicks is like, oh yeah, so we've done a lot of Earth stories, so let's branch out a bit. So we're gonna have the Three Doctors and Green Death because they're what we usually have, and we'll have Frontier in Space, great with Malcolm Holt Political. We've done that before, so we do that, and Planet of the Daleks because obviously Terminator will make some money.
Yeah.
So he's like, okay, we want to branch out a little bit in the Pertwee era. So Bob Holmes, do you have something alien? He's like, oh yeah, Carnival of Monsters, which is literally like a Tom Baker story, and it's like so different to anything you've seen in the last 5 years. That's exactly who he is.
Yeah, it's this. Yeah, it's like
when I watched that recently. I watched it recently for the first time. Carnival of Monsters. I'm like, this is like nothing I've watched from the Pertwee era. It's so odd.
It's brilliant. It's brilliant. I love it.
Yeah.
There's this. But anyway, just specifically on his first season.
Yeah, season 7.
It's focused.
Yeah.
This is one where they clearly had a beginning, middle, and end in mind. Yeah. Even though there's not, huge necessarily like Russell T Davies overarching themes and ideas and story beats, but like where they wanted him to grow to and what they, it was clear that there was a direction they had in mind.
Yeah, and I would say, because one of the things that I've mentioned a few times on a few videos before is that I've noticed on Doctor's rankings that Pertwee and Smith tend to be on opposite ends of a lot of people's lists, including ours. And one of the reasons for that isn't just the way they're characterized, but the tone of their series, especially their first series. You compare, we'll get to Series 5 later, but you compare the tone of the gritty realism versus the fairy tale. They could not be more different.
Yeah.
I think that is one of the biggest reasons that people feel so polar opposites on them.
Yeah.
And if you're the kind of person that hasn't seen Classic Who and the kind of Doctor Who you're geared towards is the Smith era, I think Season 7 might put you off. Because it is as different as possible as it could get.
It's great.
In terms of tone.
It's like, I get, like, everyone, has different tastes and stuff, but this one...
But if you think Series 7's better than Season 7, you're wrong. Objectively. Anyway, what were we going to say?
Everyone's entitled to their opinion. But I just think for what I like in Doctor Who and what I like in sci-fi in general and what I like in storytelling, a lot of that is in Season 7. I like things to have a bit more... I don't mean like, oh, look how dark we're getting, but I prefer them to have a bit of an edge. A bit of a bite, because I'd rather watch something that has something to say and is a little bit shoddily put together than something that's really crisp but is hollow.
Do you find it sad that there's people out there that prefer dinosaurs on a spaceship to Inferno?
Yep. But everyone's entitled to their opinion. Yes.
That's different to what you usually say.
No, everyone's entitled to their opinion. It's fine. You're welcome to enjoy whatever.
Anyway, big thumbs up for season 7. There's a reason why it's number 1 on the DWM.
Because it's fucking brilliant.
Yeah.
It's all down here from here.
I think there's been a lot of... Come on, here we go. There's a lot of...
None of Doctor Who is ever going to be as good as Yen.
Whenever you look
Season
up...
7's it. That's it. There's no more. So you just finished at season 7.
What about series 3?
No, well, series 3, which I think I like because it's a lot like it reminds me a lot of season 7.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of parallels to be seen.
But season 7 doesn't have the Master in it.
No, it doesn't. No.
That's interesting though, that the fact that season 7 is top ranked of DWM, because doesn't have the Daleks,
Nope.
or the Cybermen, or the Master, or the TARDIS.
Yeah. Basically, it went completely new. But the great thing is, the new things that introduced are staples of the show now.
Parallel universes.
Yep.
The Silurians and
Unit.
the Autons and Unit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's the thing, is it went balls to the wall
Yeah.
with its changes, and
Yeah.
it stuck.
Oh, and I did say the thing about if you're a Matt Smith fan, it might be difficult. But if you like classic James Bond films, you'll love it.
Roger Moore era, but imagine if the Roger Moore films were good. Actually, that's a lie. There are a lot. I love the Roger Moore films, but they're not. They're not the.
No one's gonna tell you that Moonraker is a classic.
No, but a lot of people really like Live and Let Die, which, to be fair, is a great one. But it's not License to Kill, and it's not The Living Daylights.
Mm-hmm.
Those
And
are the two.
it's not Casino Royale or Skyfall either.
No, Casino Royale and Skyfall are great, but basically they're just doing what License to Kill did 30 years prior, but better, with a Bond who's more like the book character, and because he's a fucking psychopath.
Oh yeah, adaptations.
Yeah, but I don't actually mind.
And it's
Like,
wrestling.
yes, the thing is, I don't mind when adaptations change things, but Timothy Dalton's great, and he did. You know how Tom Cruise, hung on the side of a plane. Timothy Dalton jumped from one plane to another in the opening of Living Daylights. License to Kill. Sorry.
I was gonna say the Living Daylights, just living by that much.
Yeah. Oh, Living Daylights.
Nearly Headless Nick's Death Day Party. The one scene from the book that's not in Chamber of Secrets film.
Is Peeves not in the book?
No, the Peeves is in the book, he's not in the films.
That's right, yeah.
But they did film.
It was Rick Mail,
They
yeah.
did film scenes for it.
It was Rick Mail.
And they didn't even put it in the extended edition because the CGI is too expensive.
I know, but I really wanted to see it because I love Rick Mail.
Yeah. Anyway. Were they successful by the end of the year? Yes. Did they go heavy on returning monsters?
No.
They did everything different. Was it lighter tone or darker?
Darker.
Yeah. Lighter in terms of its cinematography,
Yeah.
technically speaking, but...
It's still quite grimy, though.
Yeah.
It's quite gritty.
Yeah. And actually, non-Spearhead from Space, the camera quality is actually worse.
Yeah.
It's quite patchy.
But the Spearheads from Space stuff is top notch.
Get the Blu-ray.
Oh, beautiful.
It's like a wax painting,
Yeah.
30 FPS.
You thought Tooth and Claw looked good on Blu-ray.
Oh.
bloody film.
Oof, yeah. And obviously the tone is the gritty realism. And in terms of performances, Pertwee is much harder in season 7 than he is in the others, but his acting is top notch for the character he's portraying. I just think if you're not into the idea of a doctor not being kind or nice, you might find it a little bit alienating.
Yeah.
But with that said, watch those stories and then watch the rest, because after that point, once he meets Joe Grant, that's when things become magic.
Because that's the thing, is with any story, like with William Hartnell, you're gonna want growth.
Yeah.
And Pertwee has it in spades, and it's just in his first season he's very abrasive and great.
Mm-hmm.
and then he gets more complex as the show goes on, as he gets more compassionate.
Yeah, it's like if James Bond was the Doctor, but without all the sex, drugs, and rock and roll.
Yeah, without being a misogynistic psychopathic fuck.
Yeah.
He's just... Bond is a bad man.
Let's be honest, he's kind of a two-dimensional character, really.
He's not... Yeah, he is. He's paper thin.
Yeah.
But he does cool shoots. And he's got a jetpack at one point.
And he's Australian at one point.
Yes. Are you going to do a review of all the Bond films?
I want to, but I'm not sure if I have enough time to do it.
Because they're all about 1,000 hours long.
I know.
Though, on Her Majesty's Secret Service, the George Lazenby one, maybe if you just do one of each Bond, the George Lazenby one is actually really good.
Yeah.
He's a bit wooden in it, but
see that's the thing.
Really
that's
good.
the thing, though. It's like I've heard people say like if Sean Connery was in that
It'd
film,
be the best one.
It'd be the best one.
Yeah. Yeah. It's such a shame. He's like he gets better throughout the film, but like there are points where you're like, it's clear you're a model, not an actor.
Yeah.
And Australian.
Yeah.
You can hear it.
Yeah. Oh.
Other than Craig.
Dingo on my Aston Martin. But do anything else to say about season 7?
Nay, go and watch it.
Yeah. But they did it good. They did it good. We'll say that. Thumbs up. Now, season 12, Tom Baker's first season.
Ah. Have you seen the TV recently? There's a... not just any TV, I mean watched TV in New Zealand recently.
No.
Well, there's an ad for soothers. You know, those, like, not throat lozenges, but like throat lollies. I swear to God that ads is narrated by Tom Baker. Soothers. They'll fix your throat, or whatever the fuck it is. I swear it's Tom Baker.
Are they shaped like jelly babies?
I hope so. I hope so. I'm not going mad. People in Australasia...
See, that's retired Tom Baker.
Yeah.
That's what the curator has. He has soothers because he's old and he needs hard candy.
Yeah. So man, I wish in that scene in the 50th, I wish Tennant was still there before. Like, I wish Tennant... Obviously, it was quite
the fact that we never got a scene with Tom Baker with either the 2nd Doctor or the 10th Doctor.
Yeah, it's just... devastating.
Mm-hmm.
Big Finish. Get on it.
Please. But, in terms of season 12, not the Soothers, again, very different to John Pertwee. Very different. But I think it worked because Tom Baker, as we all know, is quite possibly the most iconic Doctor, and
he's definitely the most iconic classic.
Yeah, and one of the reasons why is because in his very first season, right off the bat, he is brilliant.
Yes, he is, without question. He was a shot in the arm that the show needed. Not that the show was dragging on, but if it went on any longer, it would have started to get repetitive in that Pertwee era. Much as I love it, it still would have been very strong, but it would have started to dwindle and wind down a bit.
I think 5 seasons may have been enough of that, you know?
Absolutely, which is why when he came in, and especially in Robot, where it's basically a Pertwee story, just with the insanity of Baker.
It's interesting you say that.
Yeah.
Because Robot is a Pertwee story with Tom in it,
Yeah.
and Carnival of Monsters is a Tom story with Pertwee in it.
Yeah, and it's just like...
And ironically, one is written by Robert Holmes,
Yes.
scripted by Terrence Dicks, and one is written by Terrence Dicks, scripted by Robert Holmes.
Ah. And also, Tom Baker in his first episode. Not fit. All systems go.
The introduction of your father, Harry Sullivan.
My dad, yeah. Rest in peace. He's great. I love
He's in Carnival of Monsters as well.
He is. So Harry Sullivan. I love Harry Sullivan. Not just because he looks like me. Or I look like him. Dad. But he's a great straight man to Baker's. Because obviously the Brigadier still in. But
Only for the first story.
yeah. But because Brigadier was really Pertwee's you know, he was the man we bounced off.
Well, yeah.
Baker kind of needed that, and they gave him Harry Sullivan, who's just sort of your average Joe. He's really smart, but he's your average Joe. He's kind of, he's charming, but he's a bit dopey at times, but, he's nice, he's lovely. And he's the straight man to Baker's bouncing off the walls insanity.
Yes, and in terms of the transition, in terms of the transition, the one thing that really helped was Sarah Jane Smith.
Yes.
Because obviously she started in season 11, so we've gotten to know her.
Yeah.
And that's great.
Yes.
Because it's Sarah Jane Smith.
And it also helps ground the new Doctor, because that's why, like, when Capaldi came round, we'll get to it, but when you've got a companion there who's carried over, generally speaking, it helps keep the show like, okay, there's still a sense of...
Ben and Polly did that with Troughton.
Yeah.
Because you had one that was for the new Doctor, one that wasn't.
Yeah.
A lot of people who watch New Who say that one of the reasons why they are okay with, even though they were sad that Eccleston left, one of the reasons why they're okay with it is, because they were like, oh well, I've heard Tennant's great, but also from a story perspective, they've gotten to know Rose Tyler by that point.
And Rose Tyler in season 1 is great.
Yeah.
Series 1 is great.
Yeah. She does change, but...
In series 1, she's great.
Yeah, but because they've gotten to know her, they trust the show.
Yeah.
There's a connection.
Of course.
And
that's like immediately in the Christmas Invasion. Again, we'll get to this, but in the Christmas Invasion, they go straight to Jackie, Mickey, and that group of people, that familiar unit, for lack of a better term.
Which is what they do in Robot.
Yeah.
But because Tom Baker steals the show, by the time you get to the rest of season 12, it's magic.
Yeah.
Because within one episode, Tom Baker becomes the Doctor, and by Ark in Space, it feels like he's been playing him for years.
Yeah.
And then you just, classic
I
after
think
classic after classic.
I think he's the fastest to this is his Doctor. Because often the Doctors, especially newer Doctors, they'll have a post-regeneration kind of haze and they'll be all a bit quirky and then they'll settle down into their role. It's like he never stopped.
I feel like his post-regeneration trauma was for his first 6 seasons.
Yep.
But it wasn't like Jodie where it was bad. It was great.
It was just... He was just mad. It was just mad. And it was just so... Because John Pertwee, the third Doctor, was always the voice of reason. And he was very stern. And he believed in what he believed in.
Now you will move your car right now. This instant!
Yeah. Hand me that, would you, Joe? Thank you.
No, not that one. That one.
But... Yeah, when Tom Baker came around, he's just like, I don't care about anyone or anything. I'm just going to have fun.
Mm-hmm.
And then sometimes he was hit with like a incredibly introspective or nihilistic or philosophical quandary where he's like, what the fuck am I supposed to do here?
Genesis of the Daleks.
That's exactly what I was thinking of.
Because if by that point in season 12 you hadn't been won over by Tom Baker, you get hit with one of the best Doctor Who stories ever made. And one of the most definitive articles of the character. And his season 12 gets the Doctor so right.
Yeah. It's brilliant.
Yeah.
It's so good.
And also because they had no idea what the reception was going to be, Tom Baker's humour is very natural. It's actually a little bit different to the rest of his era.
Yeah, where they tried to write Tom Baker. In the first one, they were sort of giving him scripts, but it seems like stuff that... It felt almost like it was just off-the-cuff quips from Baker himself.
And it's like when you watch the first Star Wars film, A New Hope. If you can tell they're like, we don't know if this is going to work.
Yeah.
Like, they don't know if this is going to work, but it all does.
I always forget how 70s that film is. Like, because, Empire's the one that sticks in my brain the most, as I think, generally speaking, with most Star Wars fans, it does. Because it's like so slickly put together. It's gorgeous. Empire is gorgeously put together. And then you watch the first one, you're like, this is a big budget independent movie. This is a home movie. Yeah. It's so scrappy. It's great.
Yeah. It's just like the same thing with the first Rocky film. It's an independent film.
I love Rocky so much. If you did a Skype series of all the Rocky films, I would be there, and I would have many things to say about all of them.
Well, is there any new Creeds coming out soon?
No, I think they're done. I don't think Creed 2 did that well at the box office, but it was a fucking great movie. So fucking good. Creed, man.
And also, that would be a chance for us to rant on Hulk Hogan, because Rocky 3.
Thunderlips. The ultimate man versus the ultimate meatball. Ha 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 ha. He cannot act for shit. And he's playing himself. How do you not play yourself well? I don't understand that.
Yes, because in contrast to that, you have season 12, where Tom Baker does play himself.
Oh, brilliant.
Right.
Good on you for trying to keep it on track.
Yes.
But no, Rocky 3 is amazing. It's like a comic book come to life. And then Rocky 4, he beats the Cold War by punching Dolph Lundgren in the face.
That's like WrestleMania 7.
It's exactly like WrestleMania 7. It's great. And he comes out to, the national anthem of the USSR. And all the Russians are standing up with their hands on their hearts, listening to this, and it's empowering, and they're all intimidating Rocky, and then he punches up Dolph Lundgren and he beats him, and then all the Russians are like, yay, Rocky! Yay, America, down with communism. Because that's how politics works. You just punch each other in the face and it'll be fine.
Yeah, basically.
Rocky 1 and 2 are great dramatic films. Rocky Balboa is about retirement and death, and it's miserable, and I love it. And Creed is about identity, and then Creed 2 is about family, which is the most generic thing to say, but it is, and it's great.
And Deadpool is about touching your large penis with a small hand.
Deadpool, man. I don't know how I feel about Deadpool.
I love it. I reviewed it, would have been 2 weeks ago now, because I did Apocalypse.
Yeah. You haven't done the second one yet, have you? Have you seen it?
Nope. I haven't seen the second one yet. I'm worried, but...
I prefer it.
Well, I'm worried for one specific reason, but I won't spoil what that is.
I have a feeling I know. You don't have to say anything. I know exactly what it is.
Mm-hmm. But we'll see. We'll see how it goes. But going back to season 12, which we've been tangenting off.
Yeah.
At one point in time, it was my favourite classic season, so I have very positive things to say. It's been beaten by one or two others, but I still love it.
Yes.
Revenge of the Sidemen's a little bit bad.
It's the thing is, it's not like a bad script. It's just very basic.
Yeah.
It's entertaining.
I think it's a decent romp. It's just the fact that it has the Sidemen in it. It's kind of a disappointing.
It's middle of the road, especially because it wasn't the one right after Genesis. Because you go from Genesis, which is potentially the best Dalek story ever written.
Well, it's certainly the best story about the Daleks.
Yeah, definitely. And then
the best story, like with the actual how the Daleks are utilized, is not that one.
No.
That would be probably something like Power or Dalek. Or Bad Wolf, one of those.
Dalek is perfection, almost perfection. There are a few episodes which
Adam
I think
Mitchell.
yeah, there are a few episodes of New Who which I think are like, obviously nothing can be perfect, but in the way I rank things, I'll explain it when we get to the 10s out of 10s when we get to it with Jake, because they do exist. I don't hate.
You have given a 10 before, but not for New Who. You gave it to the Chimes of Midnight.
That's right.
And you gave it to Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2.
Because it's great. It's so good.
I gave it a measly 7, didn't I?
I know. Though I feel like I knocked you up a notch. I felt like that was originally going to be like a 6, and I knocked you up a point just because I was so angry. Especially because you did not like Kurt Russell, and that upset me.
The thing is, unlike, because most MCU films rank around the sort of 6 to 7 range for me. The thing is, with that one, it's very different, because with most of them, I genuinely think they're average.
Yeah.
Like a lot of them, even the more popular ones, but we'll get to that.
Yeah.
But with that one, it's very much what's on paper is great, but what I watched, I didn't enjoy. So it's a more sort of skewed...
Some of the parts, yeah.
There's a skewed radius, I suppose, or axiom, I don't know how to describe it, where the middle is that. It just happens to line up with all the others.
Yeah.
And it's unfortunate, really.
because it's more daring than a lot of the other.
It's fucking miserable.
It's great.
I watched the first one, which is a fun romp.
It's great.
And I came off my deleted Doctor Strange rage, I'm like, oh yeah, I want the sequel to that fun film. It's fucking miserable.
It's all about abuse.
It's a horrible film to watch.
And it's the one with the talking raccoon.
Yeah, the one with the talking raccoon. It's a film that a poster, it looks like a rainbow, but it's the most grey MCU film. It's so fucking miserable. Like, the
Civil War ain't got shit. Because Civil War is fun, but it's also like, it's dark and it has serious moments. But Guardians somehow deals with the most real things.
Well, it was so miserable that I didn't even enjoy it. That's how dark it was.
So good.
I think my sort of big analogy to describe what watching that film is like, it's like going to hospital. It's a great story, but I wouldn't enjoy going to hospital and having needles stuck into me.
Depends what you're going to hospital for.
I don't know.
Like, what if you had an awesome injury? Like, what if your leg may be painful, but like it was like in a literal Z shape?
Yeah. Like,
just your shin in a literal Z shape. Imagine, how would you get your leg in a Z shape? Would you be run over a car and then they're like, oh shit, I've hit someone. Let me reverse backwards, and then it goes the other way, and then they're like, oh fuck, and you go to hospital and they're like, let us realign your leg, and then you're like walking like a peg leg for a while because you're in a cast.
Or you were given cancer by your own husband because he's an egomaniac.
Who's literally named Ego.
Mm-hmm.
And it's great. Guardians of the Galaxy 2 is so underrated. I love it so much. It transcends all the other Marvel films because it's actually a good film first and then a good Marvel film second. Bit of ASMR for you.
Well, it's a nice change from you whacking off the third Doctor, but we've already had that anyway, so what's next? Oh, hating on Hellbent, that's next, but that'll come later. Or maybe not. We're talking about Series 8, so maybe we won't. Maybe we'll just hate on Death in Heaven, or Kill the Moon, or End the Forest of the Shy. But we'll get to that.
All of them just don't matter in comparison.
Anyway.
That's the way you need it.
Were they successful by
Yes.
the end of the year for Season 12?
Yes.
Absolutely. Tom Baker is a success through and through. Did they go heavy on returning monsters? Yes.
Not heavy, but
they
were...
did.
No.
They did. Because they had the Sontarans, the Daleks, and the Cybermen.
Oh yeah, they did. I forgot about the Sontarans, of course,
Yes.
yeah. Because the thing is about the Daleks is, yes, they did, but it's not about the Daleks, it's about Davros. That's the thing.
Yeah.
It's not like Daleks based. They're there and they're present,
Yes.
but they actually strip them back. And somehow that makes them more imposing.
But they did have the Sontarans and the Cybermen.
Yes.
Which are fun little stories.
Yeah.
But in terms of the creativity, Ark in Space is where it's at. Again, Robert Holmes.
Yeah. That was the first Baker story I think I saw.
It's a good one to start with.
Yeah. And then I think it was Pyramids of Mars.
A good one anytime.
Yeah, and then Genesis. And then...
I think I was flipped. I think I may have seen Robot on DVD. But in terms of actually watching it on TV, Ark in Space, then Genesis, then Pyramids of Mars, then Robots of Death, then City of Death. That's the first 5 I saw.
City of Death,
Mm.
man.
But they did go heavy on returning monsters, but in the case of Genesis, they utilised it in a way that was very creative.
Yeah, it's just the other two were there. Good, fun, but...
Yeah.
They didn't do anything hugely creative with them.
Yeah. And I think more of the new stuff came in seasons 13 and 14.
Oh, God, yeah.
That's where it came. Because obviously you got the Zygons and the Antimatter and Sutek and Morbius, and then obviously... Actually, every episode of season 13 is a new monster.
Yeah.
Androids, I suppose, technically are new, even though they are literally just the Zygons, but shit.
Yeah. Yeah.
Terry Nation. Weirdly, the best and worst, for me, episodes of the Hinchcliffe era, both written by him. Genesis of the Daleks and the Android Invasion.
Well, I guess it's kind of like Moffat in some respects.
Well, that's a bit more polarised. Because Android Invasion, I would say, is the worst of the Hinchcliffe era, but I'd probably say it's like a 6.5.
Yeah.
As opposed to a Hellbent, which is an insert number here that you'll find out.
Ooh, I wonder.
In terms of the tone,
pretty
similar. It's similar to how with Hartnell to Troughton went to more sci-fi. It's like that.
Yeah.
With John Pertwee's Earth, it went to all sci-fi.
Yeah, it tried. Yeah, again, it tried to be different, and other than robot, spread its wings and fly away. And unlike Icarus, it didn't fly too close to the sun, so it didn't burn up on re-entry. It was fine.
I'm pretty sure out of all the eras of Doctor Who, I think Tom's has the most alien planets. I know that season 16...
Just by virtue of being the longest, probably.
Yeah. Oh, no, but I mean in terms of percentage.
Yeah.
Pretty sure it does. And season 16, I believe... I can't remember. I'm not 100% sure on this. I'm pretty sure it only has one Earth story, and if it doesn't, it has 0.
Right, yeah.
And all of the TARDIS team are alien, because it's the 4th Doctor, Romana, and K9. None of them are human. So I think the only one that's Earth, I think, might be the Stones of Blood. I think that one might be, but I haven't seen it yet. But the rest of them are all alien. So, yeah, that's what they were trying to do, and they succeeded. And in terms of performances, incomparable.
That's fine. That's good.
It's just fine. It's the performance.
Yeah. The original, you might say. It's good.
Yeah. Tom Baker's first season is exactly what it needs to be. Yes. Just the only thing that I would change is just make Revenge of the Cybermen a little bit better. That's it. Weirdly, it's got Kevin Stoney in it. So I feel like they may have originally wanted to do a sequel to The Invasion, because it has the Cybermen and it has the actor who played Tobias Vaughan.
Yeah.
But instead they made him like this weird masked character. It's very strange. And
yeah. But then again, the BBC only has about 16 actors.
And $16. £16.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which amounts to about $14 or something.
I don't know. Anything else to say about season 12?
No, it's good. It's good.
You seem like you want to say something, but you're not sure.
No. I just couldn't think of anything.
There's something you wanted to say in regards to season 7, but it's going to be in a few months. Now you want to say something about season 12, but it's when.
No. See, this isn't something that's coming back. Literally, nothing came to my mind. That's why I made that face.
Right.
It was
usually
the spinning beach ball.
Because usually when you say that face, you want to say something, but you're not sure if you want to say it.
No, that was literally just a.
Because you know what I would expect you to say is
what?
Tom Baker's great, but John Pertwee's the best Doctor. That's what you would say.
I would say, well, you might think that, but I couldn't possibly say.
Oh well.
John Pertwee's better. Moving on.
Oh dear. Moving on to the one that I think you're going to have to lead because it's the one I've seen the least of.
Yeah, oh god.
Season 19, Peter Davison. I've only seen Visitation, Black Orchid, and Earthshock. I think that's the only ones I've seen from that season. The others being obviously Castrovalva, Fort of Doomsday, which is on the list.
Yeah.
Kinder, which I've seen Snake Dance, so I'm aware of what it's about. Obviously then you've got Visitation, which I've seen, Black Orchid, which I've seen, Earthshock, which I've seen, and then Time Flight, which I haven't seen, and that's on the list.
Yeah, it's been... basically, to be honest, it's been a long time since I've seen any of them, but I do remember distinctly that there's a bit more of a... Not just because of the characterization of... Okay, let me just start with Peter Davison, the Fifth Doctor. Stripped back. To a fault, I think. Not Davison's fault, but the writers didn't play to his strengths. Because there is a tremendous warmth within Peter Davison and his performance. And it comes through occasionally.
I would say the only episode that, from memory, where it fully manifests in that series is Earthshock. That's the only one.
Yes.
But that's because Eirich Saywood's writing it and he's the forefront of Davison's Doctor.
And the thing that he understands that version of the character isn't just kind. There's more complexity to him. He's trying to be a kind man in a harsh world, which sort of translates to memory from the tone of a lot of their stories, is they're quite not gothic necessarily, but they're not as fun. I think deliberately so, and not in terms
I
of.
would say Black Orchid's the exception to that, though. But that's that's a pure historical. It's only 2 episodes. That's kind of like Davison's version of The Lodger.
Yeah, they're not.
That's the one where he plays cricket.
Yeah, they're not. Like there was humor and levity throughout, but because he's a much more stripped back, naturalistic kind of performance, it seems like they've tried to ground the sci-fi in that as well, to make it a completely different tone, and it sort of makes it feel a bit dry. There are definitely strengths in it, and Davison is a charismatic guy, but he does feel a little bit trapped in this first season, from what I can recall. That he's not... Deliberately, they didn't make him pop, because they didn't want another Baker yet. But
and I think one thing that you've mentioned on videos before is that when you do this kind of thing with a Doctor, it's often clever to pair them with an awesome companion.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, though, this TARDIS team, for me anyway, is one of the worst.
Even if you like the characters, they're not big enough to be an antidote to the Doctor's quietness and reservedness.
And in season 19, none of those actors were ready for it.
And that's the reason why I think Nardole, going slightly off topic, but way later, Nardole, when he was in that one-off Christmas special, he was quite annoying.
I honestly think everything from Husbands all the way up to Knock Knock, he's pretty bad.
Yeah.
It's only Oxygen when he starts to get a character.
But the thing is, because he's quite, he's doing this Matt Lucas thing, where he sort of speaks in this kind of voice, and he doesn't quite know what's going on, but he's going to be chipper about it. You may or may not like that character, but he plays off of Capaldi's fuck off kind of attitude.
I'm not sure if you're aware, but Anthony fucking hates Nardole.
I don't think you needed to say that. I could have just guessed. I had a feeling.
He absolutely hates Nardole. Not as much as Clara, but that's a more.
Who?
We'll get to that later.
Who? What? My mind's been wiped.
Sorry. I'll distract you with something that'll make you more angry. He doesn't like Donna.
Beef with that.
It's not like he'd be watching this video anyway.
No. But I've got beef with that.
Do you want me to piss you off even more?
Sure.
His favourite season? Series 2.
Everyone's entitled to their opinion. And that's great that he likes it. And he found some enjoyment. Like, I like Series 2. I think there's a bit of a misconception that I don't like Series 2. I just don't like the whole... Well, you'll see when we get to more of it with Jake. But...
Well, I mean, we've already been through the Idiot's Lands, and I think that's enough to explain.
But that's, for me...
Even I don't like that episode.
Yeah.
I fucking hate it.
Yeah, it's rough. There's some rough bits in the middle of...
Wait till we get to the recap of Series 2. I've got some things to say.
Yeah. And then we get to the next series.
Yep.
Which is it's a series that I'm ambivalent towards and have no opinion one way or the other.
It's not like it's the only thing that's ever matched John Pertwee in this entire show.
Nope. Not at all. Though one Capaldi episode came close by itself because it was that good. That good.
And one episode in Series 4.
Yeah, oh fuck, so good. So good.
Mm-hmm. Alright. But going back to season 19.
No, it's not.
Bidmead.
Yeah, it just...
The first half is Bidmead. I believe that's the more scientific part.
Yeah.
Second half is Saywood when it became a bit more actiony.
Because the thing is, science is awesome. I love science, and science is so interesting. But to make science in a science fiction show exciting is a challenge.
Yeah, because even though I did defend it, to be fair, that is kind of a problem with the sense rights, why a lot of people don't like it. And it's a big reason why we don't like the Leisure Hive.
And the thing is, a lot of the science in the Leisure Hive is bollocks.
Tachyonics, what the fuck is that?
I'm sure tachyonics is a theoretical...
Yeah, unlike the sense rights, which is actually scientifically accurate.
Yeah, as
the same way
scientific
that-
as it can be.
And it's in the same way that the historicals are.
Nightmare. The second half of
No, Nightmare of Eden was okay.
yeah,
It was alright, but Invasion of Time...
was just
It's the fucking fact that we got two stories. One classic, one new who, that explore the TARDIS. One being Invasion of Time and the other being Journey to the Centre of the TARDIS.
yeah.
And they both fail.
Yeah, it's just one of those things where you just don't need to go there.
Go check out our reaction to Invasion of Time and go check out Callum's rant on Series 7. That tells you everything you need to know.
Twitter at Gandrazani.
Gandrazani.
Well, that's what it is. It's G
It
Andrazani.
sounds like a tool or an equipment. A Gandrazani.
Could you hand me that Gandrazani over there, please?
I don't know why I did that voice, but
Season 19. Were they successful by the end of the year?
no, I don't think so.
Earthshock was.
It was good. It was absolutely
Earthshock was successful, but the season as a whole, I don't think
wasn't
it
as strong as the sum of its parts. It just
especially because they ended with Time Flight.
yeah. And the thing is, especially with Davison's Doctor, the intention was to strip him back, but that was to his own detriment because that sort of more reserved, more human Doctor can be done brilliantly. Just look at any Peter Davison Big Finish production. Wow. And you listen to interviews and stuff when he talks about his version of the character, you can kind of tell, at least this might be me reading into it at least, but from what he's said, what he does in Big Finish is clearly what he always wanted to do, and I think that's the case with most of them who do Big Finish. But Peter Davison is so good in Big Finish, but this is not going to be the last time I say this, but the writing let him down.
Yeah, and I also think it's a bit unfair. It was never going to be a success.
No.
Because it came off the Tom Baker era.
Exactly.
It was impossible to top the popularity of that.
Yeah.
Um.
It's why, Lazenby only did one film. And it's why, same deal with bloody Dalton. They're it took so long between Moore and the first Dalton film, and then people were like, I don't like it because it's not funny. It's all dark and grim and fucking brilliant. But if you've seen the Bond films, tell me what you think of the Dalton duology. I'm interested to hear people's thoughts.
From what I understand, License to Kill is mixed. People either love it or
it's Marmite.
Or they're a bit I don't really get that. And I think The Living Daylights is quite unpopular.
They're both very unpopular.
Yeah.
But people are entitled to have wrong opinions.
Oh, now it's evolved. God, we're getting to all... Because you've been away for so long, we've gotten to all of them. You've got John Pertwee.
Yep.
You've got Series 3.
Yep.
You've got the Dalton films.
Yep.
Dalton is James Bond. And you've got... your hatred for Hulk Hogan. And the only thing that's missing is Hellbent, which I'm sure will come later. And your love for Big Finish as well. That's the other one. Yeah, and I'm sure your love for Colin Baker will come too.
Who?
We'll get to that. Did they go heavy on returning monsters? Only the Cybermen.
Yeah, so not heavy, but they did rely on it a little bit, but it wasn't like a crutch.
I would say I guess they had the Master in Castrovalva, but that's only because he was in Legopolis.
Yeah, it was a carryover. That was more just a resolution to that story.
Yeah. But I think what they did was probably, in terms of a creative standpoint, the right way to do it, where they had one big returning story with Earthshock, and the rest of it was trying to establish the new style.
Now, am I getting it confused? Is Earthshock the one where they don't reveal it's a Cyberman until the very end of the first?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a brilliant reveal.
It's also the one where Adric dies.
Yes, that's right. And that's...
Go check out Callum's reaction to it on Editron.
Yes. Hi, Callum, if you're watching.
Yeah. He says he really likes that one, but it's not quite his favourite because Enemy of the World was his favourite.
Enemy of the World's good. That is good. Alright, yes. No, it wasn't used as a crutch. They used it sparingly to an effect.
Yes. Yeah, I appreciate the creative ambition.
There was definitely a clear idea. I just don't think it was necessarily executed in the best way.
Yeah. In terms of tone, interesting. It's because season 18, I feel like, really was the first one that did the big changes, where it went to the Bidmead style, and they went very hard with it, which it was almost polar opposite to season 17, which is the one with Creature from the Pit and City of Death and Nightmare of Eden. We've seen those.
Yeah.
And they are very pulpy stories. And I love Creature from the Pit. It's very pulpy.
I don't get the Creature from the Pit hate.
It's a giant green penis. Get over it.
It's
like the fucking Slitheen.
Yeah.
It's so underrated.
And I can't remember. There's a joke when people are trying to get through a wall and Tom Baker just comes through the other side. Yeah. It's really funny.
Yeah. But with season 18, they went for the complete opposite, which was all science.
Yeah.
And I feel like with Davison's first season, they had some of that, but they almost morphed it into a bit more action.
I honestly feel like it's going to sound a bit strange, but it should have had like a war game style story to begin with, where it was like a mystery that was slowly unraveling as the new Doctor was discovering himself, and the whole season was just one big thing, whilst the writers could figure out where they wanted to go from there. They didn't really have a launching platform of any kind.
And because they had 3 companions, they did try to have a few episodes focus on them. With Tegan, you got Kinder.
Yeah.
Which with the Mara, which I suppose is interesting. I think Snake Dance is the more interesting one of those, mainly because of her acting. Her acting gets slightly better in season 20, though I still fucking hate that companion. With Adric, you got Earthshock, which is literally the only good thing about him in his whole run. And then classic, of course, Nessa gets the little one with Black Orchid, where she's got a twin, and that's all she gets. Because the rest of the season, she's like Yaz, where she's non-existent.
It could have been great, but they just...
But she's one of the best parts of Arkham. Not as good as Colin Baker, but she's one of the small highlights of Arkham Infinity.
Yeah.
Until Tegan comes along and ruins it.
And her cousin? Am I remembering that
Yellow
right?
Socks.
That's right.
Why are you going down there?
Because I've got to find the Doctor.
Okay. Trash that was.
It were a bit of a dud.
As you say.
That's right. Bloody Omega's in that story.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Season 19, performance by Davison compared to the others.
The least impactful. Again, I think that was very deliberate, but I feel like the writing underserved what Davison was capable of.
Mm-hmm.
And that's pretty much all I can say about that, just because it's been so long since I've seen it. But just from what I can recall, he's good, but they just don't give him enough to really shine. Because I think Davison's Doctor thrives in adversary to something, like case of Androzani. And Earthshock. He's great in Earthshock, because he's just trying to be this gentle soul in amidst this violent environment.
Well, the last shot, not the last scene, but the last frame of Warriors of the Deep.
Yeah.
Because the rest of that story is utter garbage.
Except for him falling in the pit.
Oh, yes. And his alleged sex with Turlo at the start.
And the Kung Fu off.
Yeah, the one that made the BBC want to cancel the show.
Yep. Alright, let's move on. I'm done talking about it.
Let's move on to something a bit more interesting.
Yeah.
The Twin Dilemma and Season 22.
Hey!
Colin Baker.
10 out of 10. 100 out of 100.
Okay, so the approach.
Let's make him as much of a fuckwit as we can.
Yeah.
Okay. Hard to defend this one. They tried to get the abrasiveness of the third Doctor, the arrogance of the fourth,
Cuntiness of the first.
yep, and none of the warmth or whimsy of the second and fifth. And it's amazing, but the scripts are bad. And the difference is, because of the type of Doctor that Baker is, when confronted with bad scripts on screen, he's able to shine. He is a diamond in the rough because he's allowed to be bombastic, and it is a delight.
Now, whilst you may have a point, because Twindale and Timelash obviously are heavily hated.
Yes. For good reason, I'd say.
But I will defend Vengeance on Varos.
Yes!
The Two Doctors.
Yes.
And Revelation of the Daleks. I do not see how people can say they're bad stories.
I guess people just didn't like the Doctor being so abrasive, but I love it.
I don't care that he kills 2 people in an acid bath.
Well, they fall in. He doesn't
Yeah.
push them. You'll forgive me if I don't join you.
Yeah. But I genuinely think those are great stories. Legitimately.
Yeah.
Unironically.
And the Two Doctors, yes, it is fan wank. But Colin Baker and Patrick Troughton have a wonderful chemistry.
Yeah.
And Fraser Hines and Colin Baker have a
Yeah.
wonderful chemistry.
Well, what's the excuse for Revelation then? Because that's just a great story.
Yeah, I don't... I guess people were tired of... That's the one with... Yeah, Davros.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, that's right. I was making sure.
Well, yeah.
but-
I was about to get onto the... I was skipping forward to another category just because it's the big one to talk about.
Heavy. Very heavy. Yep. Heavy. Because they were scared that people were going to turn off because of the abrasiveness of the Doctor. So they're like, let's put everyone back.
The Cybermen.
Yep.
The Master.
Yep.
Patrick Troughton's Doctor.
Yep.
The Sontarans.
Yep.
John Pertwee's Face.
Yep. Fraser Hines.
Davros.
Yep.
And the Daleks.
Yep.
The only one that doesn't is Vengeance on Varos.
And it is great. Though what we were talking about before about things not being a crutch, it is in this one a crutch. Though it's not necessarily a needed one because Baker is so energizing and captivating, and he makes it.
Mm-hmm. Fills all the holes that Davison's Doctor leaves behind.
Yeah, because it feels like if Baker was the Doctor as he was written, in not as Peter Davison's Doctor was written, but as Baker's Doctor was written within any of Davison's stories, it would have elevated them slightly because it would have kept the energy alive.
Oh, I mean, imagine Colin Baker versus the Merker.
Oh, it'd be great. Warriors of the Deep with Colin Baker would just be extraordinary.
Colin Baker, Perry, and Frobisher.
Doctor. Hey, Doc. Yep.
Yeah.
Frobisher's... I was going to go on a tangent about Frobisher.
However, as much as we love Colin Baker,
Yes.
were they successful at the end of the year?
Yes. No, they weren't.
No.
People did not like Baker.
Doctor in Distress.
Now, I love this program and all it's wrought forward. But Doctor in Distress is a travesty.
It's worse than Dimensions in Time.
That's a bold claim. I don't know, but you haven't seen Dimensions in Time yet.
I haven't seen it in full.
It's pretty bad.
We'll get to that.
Yeah.
After Worst of Classic, that'll be the finale.
Anyway.
Somehow bit bad, though, is it? What's a different kind of bad?
Yeah, because
non-canon.
thing is, Dimensions in Time had nothing going for it. So there was no level of disappointment. Actually, no. What the fuck am I talking about? I had all the living Doctors. I fucked that up.
They had Colin Baker and Brigadier together.
That was the... Yep.
Isn't that like the only redeeming factor to it?
Yep.
Anyway, we'll get to the Dimensions in Time. But no, they were not successful in terms, because obviously, yes, some people at the time who actually were smart liked the stories. because they were good. Some of them were good.
Yes.
Successful in terms of convincing an audience to get along with this Doctor? No,
No.
they weren't.
It was muddled. It was messy. It didn't quite stick the landing. But Baker is great.
Yes. And I do think the media had a lot to do with it, though.
Yeah. Because they're like, oh, TV bad guy. Colin Baker will now be taking on the role of the Doctor. How will it be interpreted?
I think there's also a miscommunication somewhere, because when you look at the title sequence, he's this bright, smiley figure, and then you watch the episodes, and he's strangling his companion and hiding behind them. Now, in terms of tone, I would definitely say it went darker.
It's ugly.
It is filthy.
Yeah, it sometimes feels dirty to watch.
And it's violent.
Yeah.
Attack of the Cybermen has blood in it. Very rare for Doctor Who.
Yeah.
Vengeance on Varos, obviously the inspiration for Bad Wolf.
Yep.
Has the deadly game shows. Revelation of the Daleks. Oh. Eric Saywood, you sick fuck. Like, that freaked me out as a kid, that story. The scene where they walk in and it's like the half-formed Dalek.
Yeah.
That's also a story with a lot of syringes, and that gets under my skin. But yeah, it's definitely darker than the Davison stuff. Led in obviously by the Caves of Androzani, which is also very dark, and Resurrection of the Daleks, which is dark, but it carries on that thing that was set up in 21.
Yeah.
And boy, it's dark. I think also maybe that could have contributed to some of the backlashes, that it got so violent.
And also, I think because it changed times, I believe it went from a Friday to a Sunday, or vice versa.
And they changed the format to 45-minute episodes as well.
More akin to what it is.
A lot changed, and possibly a bit too much. And I think the fact that the only staples that they kept were the returning villains and the second Doctor for some reason, which was a great choice, but
it was to be like, hey, it's okay, he's passing the torch.
Yeah, it's just a bit weird.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I do like season 22.
I do. It's great. I really, really enjoy it.
Yeah. In terms of performances, again, it's a weird one to say, because as acting performance is top notch, it's just the Doctor's character is a bit like, wow, okay.
It's a roller coaster.
Yeah.
Yep.
So what I'm trying to say is it's great, but understandably was hated.
Yeah, I get why people really don't like this one.
Yeah. But secretly is actually brilliant.
It's so good.
Yeah.
And then you get onto Colin Baker on Big Finish.
Yeah.
Wow.
Jubilee, Davros, Holy Terror, all that good stuff.
And then you get to meet Frobisher. Doctor. Hey, Doctor. They think I'm some kind of god. Listen to the Holy Terror.
Okay, anything else to say about the Sixth Doctor in season 22?
I wish he had the black velvet.
Oh, yes.
That would have suited his character more. Anyway.
Again, that's another thing that they did wrong, was the costume.
Yeah, it's garish.
It's just John Nathan Turner. He's just like, we'll put him in that because that looks good. Nope.
Yeah. The thing, we do dish on John Nathan Turner a lot, but I think we both quite respect him.
In the same way that we respect Stephen Moffat.
Yeah, because the thing is, like, everything we say about what he may have written is, we aspire to be like him as a creative force.
Well, Moffat's written some of my favourite television ever.
I know, Moffat is brilliant. So if you ever see what we're saying and think we're trying to attack the writers, that's not our intention. We just want to critique things and explain why certain things didn't work for us. Fuck Hell Bent. But hallelujah, heaven sent. No pun intended.
It's just like how we love Mark Gatiss, but he's written some terrible Doctor Who.
Yeah, but Mark Gatiss is wonderful.
Yeah.
He's so wonderful.
He's a brilliant actor, brilliant person, and everything he's written outside of Doctor Who is really good.
Yeah.
Apparently his novels are brilliant.
Yeah, that's what I've heard too, yeah.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if he's written a couple of Big Finishes as well, I think.
Yeah.
Because he wrote what's it called? The one about the Doctor's hometown on Gallifrey.
Oh. Hang on, I'm gonna look it up. We have to find out.
Oh God, you're gonna be screaming at me. You'll be like, it's this one. I know. I'm sorry, my brain's failing me. Also, I don't think that's what you guys sound like. I just like doing silly voices.
Well, he's the best part about all the episodes of Yaxon.
Yeah.
Lazarus Experiment.
Twice Upon a Time.
And Winning a River Song.
Yep. Oh, Winning a River Song.
He's not even that good in that. I just said that because there's nothing good about it.
Yeah. What do I like about Winning?
Or I suppose Charles
Churchill.
Dickens is good in that.
And I like Churchill as well.
Though, what Mark is really good at with Charles Dickens is The Unquiet Dead.
Yes.
That's the real winner.
Underrated. All right. Where's Weapon?
Oh, yeah.
So how have you all been whilst I've been away for however many months it is between this, between my last appearing and this?
Phantasmagoria. Is that the one? That's the audio he's done that people love.
Well, that's not the one I was thinking of. It's a novel. The one I'm thinking of is a novel.
Oh.
Greenborough! No!
Lungbarrow.
Lungbarrow. That's it.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Ah, that's famous, that one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's the one where
I'm pretty
the
sure,
doctor swears in it.
There's a guy in the American YouTuber group I'm in on Amino called Jacob Licklater. He's associated with Joey Morgan and Brian Corrigan and Lord Slar. I'm pretty sure Lungbarrow is his favourite Doctor Who story ever. So
He must hate Hellbent.
oh yes. Oh, he hates Hellbent.
Okay.
I wonder what Mark Gatiss thinks of Hellbent.
I think he'd probably be like, oh, it's lovely, Stephen.
Let's work together. Let's do Dracula and...
Yeah. I really hope that Dracula is good.
But no, I've heard that Phantasmagoria is a great book finished audio by Mark Gatiss.
Yeah.
And I've heard Invaders from Mars is unfortunately next to... Is it Scherzo or is it Chimes? It's one of those two.
It might be in the middle of the two of them.
Yeah, it's one of those
I
ones.
think, yeah. But it's... Yeah.
The Unquiet Dead is good though. Like, it's the only TV story that I can actually say I think was really good.
For a second, I know you said The Unquiet Dead, my brain heard The Idiot's Lantern. I was like, what the fuck are you on about?
Nope.
You can probably replay that in slow motion and see my reaction.
I do enjoy Robot of Sherwood, but it's not that good.
No, it's fun.
But Unquiet Dead's really good. Everything else is shit. Victory of the Daleks, Idiot's Lantern, Night Terrors, Crimson Horror, Cold War. Those are okay.
But he's great in Lazarus Experiment.
Yes. And Sleep No More is absolute balls.
Bum, 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 bum,
And Empress of Mars, you should forget about that.
What?
Empress of Mars. The Series 10 episode. The Ice Warriors one.
Oh, that was Series 10. Fucking hell. To be honest with you, I love Series 10, but I can only remember, like, Smile, Pilot, and then the finale.
That's probably why you like it so much, because you can only remember the good parts.
Well, no, there was another good one in that series.
Oxygen. And Extremis has a good concept,
but
it's just unfortunately it's connected to the Monk trilogy.
Anyway, yes, let's.
There are two very bad episodes in Series 10 though: Lie of the Land and Eaters of Light.
It's in Scotland. Peter Capaldi. Hello, Clara.
We're not up to that yet.
Hello, Mondasian Cyberman.
We're not up to that.
It's a Mondasian Cyberman.
A Mondasian Cyberman. Give us a kiss. Now, we're not talking about Clara yet, but we are talking about something else that's terrible. Season 24, Sylvester McCoy's first season, which unlike in the polar opposite of season 7, is on the bottom of DWM.
Yes.
Because obviously it's Time in the Rani, Paradise Towers, Delta and the Bannerman, and Dragonfire. 2 of which I've seen, 2 I haven't, but all of them would be on the list. Because they're all in like the bottom 20 or something.
Yeah.
You've got Sylvester McCoy's Doctor, who is like Charlie Chapman and Matt Smith in Series 7 on crack. Mel.
Yep.
Which we covered in the 5 Garbage Companions video. She'd be very close to mine. It's bad. Season 24.
It's not good.
It's it might be the worst season of Doctor Who. I did ask on Twitter what people thought if it was that one or Series 7, and they did vote for Series 7, so...
Granted, I think more people have just seen Series 7.
Yeah, because Callum voted for Series 7, and he hasn't seen Season 24 yet.
Yeah. That's an unfair voting.
Though Series 7 is not good.
No, I'm not defending Series 7, I'm just criticising your voting system.
Well, the fact that I'm allowing them to choose something they haven't seen.
Yes. It's rigged. Yeah. But...
It is...
My leg's fucking stuck in a yoga mat.
Yeah. But, it really couldn't have gone worse.
No, it's abysmal. It's like,
It does have a car crash quality to it, though. That is something that I will give it. It does have a car crash quality, but it is terrible.
It's not... I personally don't find it a watchable car crash, though. I just sort of cringe at it and go, I know everyone involved was capable of so much better, and why the fuck did you get rid of Colin Baker?
Yeah.
It makes me salty.
Yeah.
Because I'm like, Colin Baker would have done it for like 8 years.
Oh, yeah.
Maybe the show wouldn't have been cancelled if they'd given him better material and kept him on. But I'm not saying Sylvester McCoy's to blame for the show being cancelled.
Yeah.
I'm saying
Colin Baker says he envies Christopher Eccleston because, like, Colin Baker says, I would have loved to have been in The Empty Child, The Doctor Dances.
Yeah. But
as most doctors would.
But then again, Colin Baker's been in so many good Big Finish audios.
Yes, but he wants them to be on TV so we can show off.
Well, I mean, Q&As, because I've seen him live, because I went to a Five Doctors thing, which was Nicholas Briggs, Paul McGann, Peter Davison, Sylvester McCoy, Colin Baker. And you could tell which one of them was the theatre actor first. Because Sylvester McCoy was running around the audience and, you know, he would go up to people and talk to them directly face to face. Paul McGann was, you know, he would say his anecdotes in his beautiful voice, and people would just be sitting there captivated by his storytelling. Peter Davison would be like, you know, like a really friendly grandpa, you know, it was so sweet and so charming. And then Colin Baker came on and it was like a stand-up comedy routine. Everyone was on the floor rolling because he was so bombastic and funny and snide, and Colin Baker's great. If you get a chance to see him at a convention, do so. And he is they're all so good to fans.
Yes. And yes, season 24 is terrible. I don't necessarily think it's at the fault of McCoy, though.
No. Okay, let me just clarify something. I don't think McCoy's bad at all. That season, he's given so much shit. But at that convention, I only had enough money to choose to get a photo with one of those doctors. I chose Sylvester McCoy. But not because of this season.
No. And it's because he was experienced in the whole pantomime acting.
That was
thing.
his background, yeah.
Yeah. So they played into that and probably too much.
Yeah. Because they were like, okay, we need to soften him up. But by softening him up, and I think they were trying to evoke Patrick Troughton, but they missed the key quality of him in this season. They missed the key quality of him being really the person playing the whole room.
Yeah.
They kind of thought he was just a buffoon.
And that's when I criticize Matt Smith in episodes from like series 6 and 7, that tends to be similar, except with season 24 it's to the most extreme extent. It is, imagine all of Matt Smith's worst moments, like the worst peak moments, but it's for the entire episode.
Yeah.
That is a big problem.
Yeah.
A big problem. It's really bad. The approach obviously was comedic, but it didn't work at all.
No.
It's
obviously comedy's subjective, but generally speaking, I think, at least from my, script writing, storytelling, playwright perspective, a lot of the there's no tension in that entire series. There's no suspense, there's no horror, there's no driving force. It just feels stale because they go too hard in the comedy, which for me doesn't land. So the rest of it just kind of falls apart from underneath its weight. It sort of crumbles in on itself, which is why, yes, there is that car crash quality, but I just can't stomach it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I think after I watched Delta and the Bannerman, I literally just watched it I wasn't distracted. It's not like Apocalypse where I was watching other stuff at the same time, because that was just boring as shit. But with Delta and the Bannerman, I watched it fully engaged, and I said to you, I can't tell you one thing about that story. I don't know what the hell just happened.
No, it's not good.
Yeah, they go to a... I don't know. Descriptive words? Imagine trying to write an essay about it. It would be impossible.
In this essay, I will... In conclusion, it happened.
Yep.
Give me all the E's, please.
Like
E's in New Zealand are the high ones.
It's a story where he goes out of the TARDIS into another time machine, but it's... I don't know. I don't know what the fuck that story is.
Tell us about what you think of all these seasons, by the way. I'm interested to hear what people will think. I'm sure that seemed really snide. It's just I've been on my feet all day, so I'm...
Were they successful by the end of the year? Absolutely not.
Not in any way.
Nope. No way.
No.
Terrible. Did they go heavy on returning monsters? Nope. It's all new and it's all shit. The only thing that returns is the Rani. That's it.
Yeah. But that's just because they're like, okay, let's start it off so we can just be like, she shot the TARDIS and he hit his head on the TARDIS console.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I find that funny how, like, the 10th Doctor jumped from, like, a fucking plane 2 miles in the air, jumped through glass and onto a marble floor and survived. Yet Colin Baker hit his head on an exercise bike and died.
I feel like... Oh, no, I've told the story before of how I reckon Tom Baker should have gone out. They wouldn't have done it. But, like, just for some weird... from weird irony.
They had a chance. They just released the Season 18 Blu-ray box set. They could have CGI'd that.
And then the Master be like, aha, and then slice the scarf, and the scarf is undoing. And he plummets to it. He doesn't quite die from the hanging, but the Master cutting the scarf, the one thing that was, iconic with the Doctor. It's like if Matt Smith choked to death on his bow tie.
Yeah. Now, was it a lighter tone or darker? Lighter.
Lighter in attempt, darker in reality.
Season 24.
There were dark days among us.
When you compare it to Colin's era, it is so much lighter.
And it just, that means there's sort of no, at least for me, there's nothing to latch onto. Because even as a young child going through these eras, I was more drawn to the shit that scared me in Baker's era than anything in McCoy's first season. Because as for later in McCoy's era, well, did you see the Ace thing that they put on YouTube? Fuck. That's not a trailer, that's a goddamn pilot.
Yeah, and people are saying it's the best one they've had so far, but I have to say the Colin trial one was pretty good. As was, surprisingly, Javanka Airlines.
Yes, that was great. I like that one.
You can leave Time Flight behind you.
It's great. It's so good.
Story style, shit. Performances.
They were giving it their all, but it just...
Giving their all in the wrong way. Unfortunately, the direction led them to giving a performance that results in irritation.
Yeah. An irritant.
Yeah. And like... I was saying with the second Doctor that I usually start with season 5 just because it's a little bit more suitable. With this, if you're starting McCoy, start with season 25. Do not start with this one.
Yeah.
Start with Remembrance of the Daleks. Do not start with Time in the Rani, otherwise you will hate him.
Yeah. Oh boy. It's unfortunately not good.
Yes.
But it got better.
Now, are we ready to move on to the next one?
Yes, please.
Okay. So we'll quickly touch on the sort of brief ones that we have, because the next two Doctors don't really have seasons on TV. So we've got Paul McGann with the TV movie.
Yep.
The approach, well, it was American, that's for sure.
Yeah, I don't want to give too much away about the TV movie, because that's one we're going to do in full later and give it its whole own video, so I don't give too many of my thoughts away. But it was American. Paul McGann's great.
Yeah. Was it successful? No.
No. with a little asterisk, which I'll come back to when we do a...
Did they go heavy on returning monsters? Well, they brought the Master
The
back.
Master, and also the Daleks.
Yeah.
Though not seen for some reason. They
Yeah.
paid for the rights.
Yeah.
They paid the Terry Nation.
Well, they have
estate
the voice in the intro.
Yeah, but voiced by someone completely... It's voiced by the director, I think.
Yeah. And the Master in the intro is Gordon Tipple, some
Yeah.
random person.
And why were the Daleks putting the Master on trial?
But that's interesting. Like, why? It must have been something to do with the time, or...
Again, retroactively, Russell T Davies is great.
Oh yes, but we'll get onto Russell T
Yeah,
Davies.
yes,
soon.
yes,
Very
yes,
soon.
yes,
Very
yes,
soon,
yes.
where
Go on.
I will get ready to be very positive. But yeah, the Master came back. Well, it was really not the Master, was it?
I always dress for the occasion.
It's like if the guy, I don't know what his character name is, but it's the driver from The Dark Knight, because that's Eric Roberts.
Yes.
The driver from The Dark Knight mixed with Jim Carrey's Riddler. It's like that.
Yeah.
Very weird.
I want to enjoy it, and I quote it, but I just...
You shouldn't.
Yeah.
It's also, I think the appeal for the TV movie comes more in the front half. I feel like it's the film gets worse as it goes on. The ending is really not good.
Because I remember my sister... I was watching it at like 1 a.m. because I was like, hey, to my friend, you've never seen the Paul McCartney movie, have you? And he's like, no, actually, I haven't. I was like, okay, let's pull this on. It was
It's
like
one
1
of those
a.m.
things like where everyone's like, no, it's not good, but you have to see
Yeah,
it. You have
and
to
it
see
was 1 a.m. and my sister couldn't sleep, so she came up and she was like, hey, what are you watching? I was like, oh, the TV movie. And I'm like, oh, the Paul McCartney one. I'm like, yes, and she hasn't seen it before. She was sitting there and she's like, about 20 minutes into it, she got up to the surgery scene. She's like, what the fuck is happening? It's like, they just botched his surgery and he died. And now, like the Frankenstein monster, he's walking out of his soul like a zombie.
Oh my god!
Yeah. Who am I? It's so gothic. Okay. I'm gonna put a pin in that because we're gonna come back to the TV movie because I have a lot to say about it.
Was it a lighter tone or darker? I don't really know.
I'd say darker, but it's because it's one narrative. Its tone. The part of the problem with it is its tone's all over the place.
Yeah.
So it's
because it bounces from being like this Frankenstein surgery to like, so at the start of the film it's like, it's almost like bloody Fast and Furious Tokyo Drift,
yeah.
and then it goes to Frankenstein, and then it's like a 90s action film.
Yeah, on a TV budget.
Yeah.
But Paul McCartney is great throughout.
Yeah. It's odd, really.
It's a hard one to pin down.
Yeah. But yeah, talking about performances, yeah, McGann is great. He's so good in it.
He's
Despite the fact that the Doctor is really badly characterized.
Yeah. He's quite vanilla in it, but retroactively again through Big Finish, it's a great starting point for where he grew from.
Yeah, because you compare him in that to Scherzo and it's worlds apart.
Or even in Night of the Doctor.
Yeah, that's obviously his end.
Yeah. Great.
Yeah. And then we obviously have John Hurt, which he was introduced in Name of the Doctor, and then...
I did in the name of peace and sanity, but not in the name of the Doctor.
And then he obviously fully appeared in Day of the Doctor, but that was his regeneration story.
No more. Billy Piper is... That crazy thing is I always forget Billy Piper is in it. Because I'm like, oh yeah, because I forget, because she's not playing Rose. And she's so good at it.
Yeah. You know what I love about that? Because obviously we all complain about how the 10th Doctor's hair's wrong.
Yeah.
The one time when it's right is when she's there.
Yeah, when she mentions Bad Wolf. Alright, we're running out of time on the audio device, so we're going to need to change it over soon. So we'll need to...
Yes. But John Hurt.
John Hurt. He's John Hurt. Even if his characterization was bad, he'd still be extraordinary because he is Sir Goddamn John Hurt.
And I do like the creativity behind his introduction.
Yeah, The mystery and the whole time, like the fact that Moffat trolled the audience where everyone's like, no, don't reveal the name of the Doctor. Because I remember people, myself included, I got so worked by it.
Like something Basil Disco or some stupid name.
Yeah. And then
John Smith.
And then sudden, on paper I should hate Name of the Doctor, but I like it. I like it.
Because it ends with Mr. Ollivander as the Doctor.
It ends with bloody, I forget his name, but the first person to have a chest burster burst out of him.
And the most deaths in cinema as well.
Yeah, the elephant.
Contrary to popular belief, most people think it's Sean Bean. It's actually John Hurt.
Well, Sean Bean's still got time, because unfortunately, one of those deaths got John Hurt a bit too much. That was a bad joke. That wasn't worth it.
Sean Bean, don't die, please.
No, I think Sean Bean will have cancelled it out. He'll become immune to death by dying so much on film. I think that's the science behind it. That's how immortality works. Because, I mean, have you ever...
But speaking out of subjectivity and going into a more technical level, just to make this a bit humorous, was John Hurt's first series good? No, it was fucking series 7, and that was garbage.
Yes.
No!
He was the highlight of it.
He was the highlight of it.
For all 2 minutes he was in it.
And Matt Smith with a cowboy hat. In A Town Called Mercy. Those two things are the highlight of that series.
Town Called Mercy as a whole. But we'll get to that.
It's the best episode from the main series.
Of Series 7.
Yeah, of Series 7.
Just to clarify.
Oh, yeah, no. Well, because Ragnarok is overrated and needs to be put to bed.
Deadpool's overrated.
Ragnarok is overrated and the hype needs to be put to bed.
Ragnarok is perfectly rated as a fine, fun film.
Nope. It's average.
A fine, fun
And there's
film.
plenty of bad parts. Especially in the first 45 minutes.
Just like Deadpool. Deadpool's overrated. It's not as funny as people say it is. Granted, humor is subjective. But it's not as good as people say it is. It's not that clever.
Neither is Ragnarok.
I didn't say Ragnarok was that clever.
Yeah, but you said it was like an 8 in the review.
Because it was refreshing.
Yeah, but it's refreshing only because it's different. But it's like it's like saying, if you were to compare like Dark World to Ragnarok, right? It's like saying drinking piss is better than eating shit. That's how I feel about it. In terms of its comedy.
Except it's like a delicious souffle because it's got Goldblum in it.
Goldblum's trash in Ragnarok.
But he also hated Kurt Russell, so...
Ego's a good character, though. I just don't enjoy him. Jeff Goldblum as the Grandmaster, though, that's not a good character.
It's just Jeff Goldblum being Jeff Goldblum.
Yeah, which is annoying as fuck.
It's great.
But he's not the worst part about Ragnarok. The worst part is Korg. That fucker can die in a hole. Absolute trash. It's every New Zealand advert you've ever seen with no satire. Fucking atrocious. Anyway, back to this video.
You're gonna hate Deadpool too.
Oh well. Let's see how it goes. Because there is New Zealand comedy I do like, but it's usually accompanied with satire.
Well, satire is usually, I find, the best kind of comedy anyway.
Yeah, that's why I like Brotown. That's why I like Boy, which is, interestingly, a Taika Waititi film.
I think Boy's still his strongest film.
Yes, because it actually has subtext to it. Ragnarok is cheap, nasty trash with a little bit of gold in it. And the only
Goldblum?
Nope. And the only part that
it's Goldblum.
The only part that's actually gold for me is, well, Loki's great, but he's always great. He's better. This is going to be controversial. Loki's better in Dark World than he is in Ragnarok for me. And
he's more nuanced.
He's better. And apart from that, the only gold in Ragnarok is the stuff with Thor and his father. Not the actual comedy part. That part for me is terrible. Anyway, moving on from that, back to this video that we're focusing on.
What about Doctor Strange?
He's in it for like 2 seconds.
And?
Oh yeah, we'll put in that guy because people like him, so that they can get that plot going. It's a neat little thing. I don't like the jokes in it though. The fucking bear filling thing. That's just some again, like it's like a New Zealand advert, but with no subtext. It's just, oh, yep, we're gonna make Thor likable, so he drinks beer and Led Zeppelin plays in the background.
You found Thor likable in Endgame, though, right?
Thor's better in Endgame because there's subtext to that.
There's a tragedy.
comedy.
There's a tragedy.
Exactly.
But he wouldn't be nearly as captivating if he hadn't gone through what he went through in Ragnarok and Infinity War.
Thor's better in the first Thor than Ragnarok, in my opinion.
He's funnier.
He's better in every single way. He has absolutely no alienness to him in Ragnarok. He is a likable guy, but that's about it.
Christopher Eccleston.
Yes.
Speaking of Thor. Segue.
Oh no, not that one. No. Let's not talk about that one. Okay. So, we're going back to... Because obviously we've had to split this up. Not into 2 days, but into, like, we've had to reshuffle all the cards because this is a long video now.
Yep.
Okay, going back to Doctor's first seasons. Now we go to New Who, which is a little bit different, but in a lot of ways there is a lot of similarities in the sense where it introduces a new Doctor. With this one, we are going with Christopher Eccleston in Series 1. And it's introducing not only a new Doctor, but reintroducing the show as a whole.
Yes.
Which we've covered before with Jake and on other videos as well.
I mean, you could... Basically, what you could do to save us time now is you could just take that entire recap video and just put it in the middle of this one. Then you have it, because he only did the one season.
But we'll go through all the different things just so we can answer the questions.
Yeah, of course.
The approach the writer took in establishing a new Doctor.
Broken.
Yes. New costume that made
Stripped
him completely
back.
different.
Yeah.
He's very threatening and masculine at times, which is very different to the flamboyance of the Doctors in the past. Not that they weren't like John Pertwee's very masculine in the sense that he's he obviously karate chops people and whatnot.
Yeah.
But Eccleston's masculinity comes from a place of anger.
Yeah.
You think of Dalek as the obvious
It's
one.
the kind of violent masculinity.
But the one scene that I tend to point to when I'm talking about this specific thing is the start of the Doctor Dances, when he tells the child to go to your room. It's so convincing as a masculine figure. I feel like no other Doctor could have done it the same way he does it.
It's a broken soldier. It's that moments of his military past creeping into his day-to-day life, except he's on adventures in space.
Yeah. Were they successful by the end of the year?
Yes.
Yes. Because we wouldn't be here without it, really.
No.
Because Series 1's the best.
Series 3.
And then,
Series 3 so
did
much
they go
better.
heavy on returning monsters? The Daleks?
Yes. They hinted at the Cybermen, but that was more of
Autons,
a...
they
Yeah.
did too. But that's it. I think that works.
There were name drops and references, but it was more... It wasn't, like, again, bringing up the term, like, using it as a crutch.
Yeah.
Basically, because the Daleks were such a fundamental part of the DNA of Doctor Who, they felt like, we've got to revamp these.
Having said that, though, even though they did make them return, the other part of the question is, did they try something different? And
Yes.
I would argue they do try something different with the Daleks.
Yeah, well, the thing is, like the Doctor has been affected by this proverbial time war,
Yeah.
so have the Daleks.
Yes.
They've been updated for the 21st century in terms of, metatextually, but in terms of the actual text itself, they have been affected by this event, which has altered the entire universe of the show. And we, the audience, aren't clued into it. And that's a great way to reintroduce these characters. Even though they've been around for 50 years, they've changed so dramatically that there are still things to unfold and find out about them.
Yes. And in terms of trying something new, because there's been 16 years that have elapsed since Classic Who ended, a whole bunch of the creative young folk who had been growing up watching Doctor Who have now matured and gotten jobs as writers, and you have a whole new breed of ideas, which is why you get people like Rob Sherman and Stephen Moffat and Paul Cornell and Mark Gatiss on board.
It's a brilliant
Who
moment.
have brought some brilliant new ideas to the show that we've never seen before. Like Empty Child Doctor Dances is an instant hit, and it has been known as one of the greatest Doctor Who stories ever since it first aired. And that's because of how not only the way that it it's reminiscent of Classic Who, but the way it brings something new to the show as well.
Yeah.
It does it so well, and in every way is balanced. Then you look at something like Father's Day, or Dalek, and you look at Davies episodes like Bad Wolf, and even the Slovene episodes are very different. In their approach, in the sense that they approach from a more not just political but personal stakes standpoint as well.
It's adapted so many things that became popular in British drama on television, sort of in the late 90s through to the early 21st century.
And I think in terms of bringing something new, I think what makes the RTD era work so much for me, and I would assume you and others too, is how the character drama was so focused. In this new
Because it's been
version.
accused of being a soap opera, but the thing is, soap operas are captivating if they're written well. It all comes down to the quality of the character writing, which above all else I think is Davies' strength.
Yes.
And having this, whirlwind of a change since its first, since it was first on air, 40 years ago at that point. And it's just, it's so radically different, and yet so many elements of the fundamental makeup of the show is still there. So it felt like a comfortable watch for those returning, but so exciting, and also something mind-boggling for people who are first-time watchers of Doctor Who.
Absolutely. And was it a lighter tone or darker? Good question. I think it was a balance, really.
It was probably, for different reasons, about on par with McCoy's last season.
Yeah.
Because there's a sense of doom and foreboding throughout, not just because it's the final season and they sort of felt like, this might be it. They didn't know for sure. But there is a sense of foreboding in that one, which is, on the flip side of that, Russell T Davies adopted, and were like, the Time War, which was a brilliant concept to explain what happened in that absence. And then Moffat came around and added onto it and actually improved the lore of what had been established, which is good.
Story style, I think what we said is the whole thing of they call it soap opera. It's sort of like that. That's mainly just within the character drama. But in terms of story style, it's very much, I would say structurally, very different, obviously, because they changed the episode length of most of the episodes.
To a more traditional modern format.
Yeah, to suit the sort of idea of having the arc revolve around the characters. But they still obviously kept some two-parters so that it had some of that Classic Who juice to it, which I think worked because the ones they chose were all very different, and for different reasons worked in terms of their extension.
Yeah.
And some of the ones that were shorter were more focused, like Dalek or Father's Day or Boomtown, that kind of thing. And there's a good variety of the stories there as well. And in terms of the performance, Christopher Eccleston is perfect.
Yep. Nothing more than can
In
be
his
said.
characterization, in his acting, everything is perfect.
If you want to know our full in detail thoughts about his performance, go watch our Series 1 recap with Jake.
Yeah, and the Doctor's ranking.
See
how high he ranks.
He's number 5.
4 for you.
Yeah, he was 4 for me.
And 2 for me.
Yeah. If you want to find out our number ones, go and
watch any video.
Yeah, any video. I pretty much say it all the time for me.
Yeah.
My one. And you can probably
mine goes without saying, really. I don't have to say it because what is it Tywin Lannister says to Joffrey is like, if anyone has to say they are the king, then they are no true king.
That's right. But I don't want a kingdom. John Pertwee's my favourite.
John Pertwee is your emperor.
Yes. Down with the monarchy, up with democracy. I love democracy.
In an alternate universe where John Pertwee is the emperor and the empire is left wing.
Oh man, great.
And instead of the Death Star, which blows up planets, it's like a seed that grows trees into people's houses.
It's like for all 2 of you Star Trek fans out there, It's like the terraforming device from Star Trek II, The Wrath of Khan, and Star Trek III, The Search for Spock.
Or it's like In the Forest of the Night, but not bad because John Pertwee's in it rather than Danny Pink.
Oh yeah.
That exists.
Yeah, we'll get to Danny Pink, I'm
But
sure.
yeah, series 1 is perfect. Let's move on to the next one.
Let's do it.
Now, you mentioned this one would be interesting because we are technically halfway through it still.
Oh, we're halfway there. Oh.
I think series 2, in retrospect, is a bit awkward because it wasn't meant to be anyone's first series, was it?
No, it's
kind of cobbled together and thankfully has its merits.
It's a very strong, entertaining season, but some of the very well thought out introspective drama gets muddled in favour of a will they or won't they kind of romance, which I think lessens the impact of what was built up in series 1.
Yeah, it's far less subtextual. It's more
on the nose.
Yeah, it's not bad for me, but it doesn't.
I want to clarify. I don't think it's a bad season by any means. It's just that I think it's quite flawed.
Yeah, especially when series 2. I think the main thing for me is most of episodes in series 2 I love, but when it hits a bump in the road, it's very extreme and it's unfortunate.
As you may see in our Idiot's Lantern review.
Yeah. Fuck.
Which was about, 4 years ago at this point.
Yeah. And it's a shame, really. I think there's a lot of reasons for that, and one of them is just because of the shock surprise that Eccleston left, and they had to recast a new Doctor straight away. And I think one of the main reasons why, for me anyway, it works still is because they cast David Tennant. Like it's a stroke of luck, really. The fact that out of the blue, they had no preparation and they managed to cast someone so great in the role.
Yeah.
With very little notice. And the fact that they still managed to produce some great stories individually as well. Like Impossible Planet Satan Pit, for example, or Girl in the Fireplace, like those kind of things. Were they successful by the end of the year?
Well, I'd say in the general public, absolutely.
Yes. Series 2 was a massive hit with the general public. I just think when it comes to the inner circle of Doctor Who fans, Series 2 tends to get a lot of flack. It does. It's very lowly ranked amongst most fans.
And again, I want to go into detail as much as I can here, but I also don't want to give too much away because we'll have a recap video. But because this was a Patreon request, I do think it's like a very 50-50 season from what I get out of the show. There's a noise in the roof.
That's scary.
That's fine.
Maybe it's Moffat. What do you think it is?
Oh, I don't know. Rat.
It's the rat from the talons of Wang Chiang.
Or it's or it's an oar from a rowing boat that's become sentient because there are termites that cause wood to become sentient, and it's spreading through the house, and soon the house will be alive like Monster House, and there'll be a weird corpse in the basement that's gross.
But Series 2, you said it was 50-50.
Yes. Because the episodes I really do like, but I also think they're great blockbuster entertainment, and the summer, especially compared to season 1 and what comes after it, there's some of that genuine personal drama is lost in favour of the undercooked romance, because it could potentially work, and it's not like they don't have chemistry.
I think it works in the case of Mickey Smith. I think that one character in his role works.
Oh, his arc's great.
Yeah.
But I mean, in terms of specifically the Doctor and Rose and their departure, I think it just it sort of undermines.
I think it has potential, but episodes like The Idiot's Lantern ruin it.
Yeah, because it became the writing team too confident, almost, if that makes sense. Because, like, obviously they would be confident because they hit it out of the park the first time and they would be over the moon. I would be too, but it's just, it feels like there wasn't... It feels like all of the scripts, even the really good ones, except maybe Girl in the Fireplace, because Moffat, under the rule of Davies, is almost...
Perfect.
Yeah, he's just flawless. But it feels like everyone just needed another pass of the script.
Oh yeah, and that's probably why there's so many inconsistencies between episodes as well.
Yeah. It feels...
It definitely also feels like, as showrunner Davies, this is the one of the four that he was the least prepared for.
It feels the most, strung together and the least cohesive.
Yeah, and in terms of introducing the new Doctor, unfortunately, as we've said in the reviews, it's not until his fourth story, which is School Reunion, that he actually gets a full episode to show what he's about.
Yeah. And even then, like, as you may know, he doesn't really become the Doctor in my eyes until Gridlock in Series 3. He's great all throughout the other stuff, and he's super entertaining, but in the fact that when I think of the 10th Doctor, the nuance and the anger and the passion and compassion I think of when I think of the 10th Doctor, it comes from Series 3 onward.
Yeah. Though, unlike Troughton and McCoy, I would say...
To people to start.
Well, actually, I would say start with Series 1, because Eccleston leads greatly into Tennant.
Yes.
But I wouldn't say start with Series 3, even though it is great. The reason why is because in Davies' writing, what makes the 10th Doctor's arc so satisfying through Series 3 is the fact of where it starts.
Yeah, where it's come from. And
you
where
don't have to skip forward to get the stuff that you want. You need to watch the entire thing as a whole for it to all work.
Yeah, it's something that comes together much better as a whole.
Yeah.
That's the big, I think, just boil down the difference between Moffat and Davies' show running abilities is the sum of the parts, where Davies individually might fall down a bit here and there, but the whole package makes things so much more satisfying.
Yeah.
Whereas Moffat's so sort of imbalanced on that front.
Oh, every series of Moffat's era feels very different to the one next to it.
There's the lack of cohesion throughout every season, whereas with Davies...
There's sometimes even a lack of cohesion within seasons.
Yeah, within episodes.
Yeah.
But that's not to say Davies wasn't flawed, because every writer, every creative, there are flaws in everything, but that doesn't make them bad.
Yeah. Rob Sherbert had to write the episode with Adam Mitchell in it.
There we go.
And he likes Hellbent. Sorry, Rob, if you're watching. I don't mean it like that.
If you are watching, Rob, please let us know. We'd love to...
If you're actually watching our videos, I'd be very happy.
We'd love to talk to you. Hit us up. You're a hero of ours.
Yep.
Yeah. Thanks, Rob. You're a great writer.
Returning monsters. So they obviously have the Cybermen and the Daleks.
Yep.
And Sarah Jane Smith was a returning character.
Yeah. K9.
Yeah, well, that sort of comes with Sarah Jane.
Yeah.
And that's it, I think. Because apart from that, it's all new.
Yeah.
Cigarettes.
And the new monsters are great.
Oh, I mean...
Krillitator are great.
Satan Pit.
The Satan Pit. Which means the literal devil.
Yeah.
Does the voice of... David something. The voice of Sutek.
Oh, Gabriel Wolf, yeah.
Gabriel Wolf, that's right.
No, it's a different character.
Yeah.
It's a different character. And you obviously get the Krillitane, you get the Clockwork Droids.
Yeah, iconic.
Even you get the Absorbaloff, which technically wasn't created by the staff; it was created by a child.
Yeah, and it
was now a YouTuber and has his own channel. Have you seen it?
I haven't watched anything, but I'm all familiar with it. Yeah.
Right, Channel Pup, I think it's called.
Also, that would have been great for that guy. That's awesome.
He's got lots of subscribers now.
Good.
So yeah.
If he makes good content, then hopefully
he made the Absorbaloff.
Honestly, it's a great concept. I just think the story did it a disservice, because I quite like the idea. It's quite horrific. It just doesn't work. Contrary to some people's opinions.
I saw a thing on Twitter. I'm not sure if I sent it to you or not. I saw a thing on Twitter of like a series panel of people's ratings, and it was just... And I think it was the average score was 5, the lowest score was 0, and the highest score was 10. So
was this just for Series 2?
No, just for Love and Monsters.
Right.
Just for Love and Monsters. So the division of opinion on that episode is polarized as hell.
And that's great.
Yeah.
To inspire that
Within
much passion.
us it is.
Yeah.
And you'll see that when we eventually, hopefully, ever get to that review with Jake.
Yeah, if Jake ever resurfaces
I'm
from his adventures around the world, you know, he's plunging tombs and he's going scuba diving, and you know, I heard he went back in time and he was punching Nazis with Indiana Jones, and
he went back in time and watched himself watch Bad Wolf.
Yeah, that's right. Because you might see, if you go back and watch our Bad Wolf video, you sort of see a shadow in the background. That's actually Jake in a corporeal form watching himself watch. So it's, you know,
He's watching himself watch Captain Jack pull a gun from his ass.
He just wanted to see that again. He's just been very busy. Jake, please return to your human form.
Tone for Series 2.
Wibbly wobbly.
Yeah, it's
Uppity downity.
it's the same as Series 1, but it's not as detailed.
Yeah, but Series 1 is inconsistent, but through Eccleston has a certain line that...
It's an adventurous inconsistent in the sense that he takes you through all these different things.
Yeah, he sort of holds your hand through
like,
it. Yeah.
Intentionally inconsistent. Like,
Yeah.
It's meant to be like that. Whereas with Series 2, it's kind of unstable with how inconsistent it is.
Yeah.
In the sense that there is actually inconsistency within the characters. That's
Yeah.
the problem. Especially with Rose, because you look at something like Tooth and Claw, where she's joking around, very endearing, helping out the side characters.
Yeah.
Quite nice, really.
Yeah, she's a good character.
And then you go to School Reunion when she's very antagonistic, unpleasant, quite schoolgirlish. Two very different takes on the character. I find that annoying, not necessarily because she's unpleasant, I know you do, but because it doesn't make sense to me. Like,
Yeah.
I wish...
To have such a sharp change.
Yeah, what I would want is, if they're going to go in this direction of her being unpleasant and having all these traits, for it to actually have a sort of linear focus, rather than just, that's what she is, but then all the guest writers don't understand the same thing.
Yeah.
You know, it's like when you're at it's like when a police sits down all the witnesses of an event and they all tell a different story.
Yeah.
It feels like that, where Russell said, "This is what I want Rose for Series 2," but every writer took it a different way.
Yeah.
And that's why in between episodes she doesn't feel like the same character.
No. Because in the first season she was the same character throughout.
In some regards, the Doctor's like that too, especially with the Idiot's Lantern, because he's so different in that than he is from the two stories to the side of it.
Yeah, it's wonky. It's wonky.
Yeah. But yeah, I suppose the tone is a little bit, maybe slightly lighter than Series 1. Just a little
Yeah, I
bit.
think it is.
Yeah.
I think it is.
And to compare the performances, I love Tennant as an actor, and I do think for the majority he puts in a great amount to Series 2, but like Troughton, it's not the best of him.
No, and Tennant is like my favourite actor. He's hugely influential on me when I'm performing. But in Series 2, by no fault of his own, the character writing is inconsistent and wobbly enough that it's not cemented yet. It's good, it's strong, it's just that it's up and down.
Yeah, whereas once you get to Series 3, it's just brilliant. Yeah. So it's a formation period, I think, for the character.
But the thing is, I do get why it was such a smash hit, because it's an easy watch.
Oh yeah, he's bloody entertaining.
Yeah.
And in the stories where he's good, he is great. Like Girl in the Fireplace, Satan Pit.
Yeah.
Even Army Ghost and Doomsday, I would say his Doctor in that is really entertaining.
Yeah. Absolutely.
And, like Christmas Invasion, I think the 10 minutes he has in that, he's great impact. But, like I said, there are a lot of episodes where he feels hidden.
Yeah.
Like New Earth, he's very hidden. Tooth and Claw, he's Scottish for half of it.
Which is great.
Idiot's Lantern, he's actually badly characterised. Love and Monsters is Dr. Light. Fear Her, he's on massive loads of cocaine. Rise of Simon Angel Steel is a story about Mickey and Rose, not the Doctor. So, it's, again, when you said 50-50, it's almost like he's not even featured enough in Series 2.
Because the thing is, if you picture that series with Eccleston there, it would make sense to have less of him, because you're like, there's not much of a need to put focus on him.
Yeah.
But I also understand that, there are so many other factors that affect the writing process and the shooting process and everything.
One of the big ones is Stephen Fry was going to write an episode and he fell sick.
Yeah.
And we got Fair Hair instead.
Stephen Fry. Oh my god, I'd love to see what he did.
Just imagine Series 2, but you cut out Idiot Stanton and Fair Hair, which are the fillers that they threw in. You cut those out, because they are literally the same fucking episode. One's in the past, one's in the future.
Yeah.
Cut those out. Stephen Fry's episode instead of Fair Hair, and a Rob Sherman adaptation of Scherzo on TV with the Doctor and Rose would be incredible.
How would you do Scherzo on film?
You have to make it shorter, obviously, but I think the actors, Tennant and Piper, could have made it work. Just them in like a white room.
But that's it.
Like
there's no set. There's nothing.
You know the first episode of The Mind Robber?
Yeah.
It'd be like that.
No, it's just white. It's just like this. Everywhere.
And imagine, like, how... I reckon I know you hate the beach scene, but the end of Series 2 would be so much more of a complex ending had there been an episode like Scherzo leading up to it where he's literally a fucking psychopath.
And their hands fuse together.
Yeah.
Yep. See, yep, it's messy. Season 2's messy.
Like, and just imagine in your head, like, what the character of Rose's reaction would be to the Doctor being like that to her. Like, it would have been...
Earth-shattering.
Yeah. Earth-shocking.
I was just about to say that.
But, yeah, I do love Series 2. I do. But, as a first season, could have been better.
Yeah.
There are flaws that come at the consequence of it being rushed.
Yeah. It's not one of these ones where it feels like it was poorly thought out. It just seemed like there was just so many challenges thrown at them and they were doing what they could. And it's, for that challenge, it's a bloody fantastic turnout. Mm-hmm. Alright, moving on.
So obviously now we've got Series 5. Matt Smith's first.
Yep.
So, in terms of approach and tone, very different to Davies. Yes. Obviously Mahmood... Sorry, what's his name? Azmat Mahmood. You mentioned about Series 5 having the whimsical fairy tales.
Yes.
In contrast to Season 7's gritty realism. You're absolutely right, because Series 5, right off the bat in the 11th hour, establishes its style straight away with its magical effect, I suppose you could say. It's
got a bit of a... Yeah, like a bedtime story quality to it.
Yeah.
Quite deliberately, I think, because of the whole, she sees as an imaginary friend and the fish fingers and custard. And
yeah. But it's got the whole...
keep going.
But I was going to say, it's... In contrast to Davies' sort of grounded character writing, it's very much escapism is the whole mission statement of Series 5. And I think in a lot of ways, whilst I personally don't hold Series 5 in as high of a regard as most people do, mainly because I don't think the episodes are as great as people say, apart from a few which I do think are great. In terms of it... what was I even going to say? In terms of what it's going for...
And how it achieved it.
I think it does it really well.
Absolutely. A bit of a spoilers for what's coming up, but I think it was a huge success.
Yeah.
It really, really knocked it out of the park. And this might sound a bit like culture shock for us to be praising this era of the show, but I don't want to speak on your behalf, but I really like Series 5.
Yeah.
It's really, really strong.
Yeah, and it's absolutely no question the best series of Matt Smith, because the other two are trash. Sorry.
Well, you have to wait and see, from my opinion.
With some small highlights, but 5 is by far the best one.
It seems definitely the most thought out. Yeah. What else? The returning villains, they redesigned the Daleks. So, excuse me.
Oh, yeah. Weeping Angels obviously came back in that one.
Yes. though I have some issue with the Weeping Angel story, it completely makes sense why they'd bring them back.
Yeah.
Because...
It was a huge attraction. It was a massive attraction.
And because it was Moffat's monster. It was... Obviously, he'd done the Clockwork Creatures before, he did the Gas-Marked Children, and he'd done the Vashta Nerada, but the Angels were Moffat's Daleks. You know, they were cream of the crop.
They are arguably the best concept in terms of like an actual monster that you can see and like do stuff with. Like the iconic New Who monster, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Even though this story's like Time of Angels and Angels Take Manhattan and the cameos, I'm not a fan of. But Blink is so good that they made them the monster.
Blink is so culturally significant in the landscape of television. Like, arguably, you'd probably have more people nowadays of our generation who would be able to recognize and identify a Weeping Angel before they identified a Dalek. Because I was talking to someone, I was actually at a party, which is rare for me, the other day. I decided to go to one for once, and there was someone I was talking to, and I sort of mentioned Doctor Who, and the first episode they brought up was like, oh, so you've seen the one with the Weeping Angels. It sticks with people because they're a brilliant concept. So the fact that it's returning is not a crutch, it's just simply made sense.
Yeah, and I think Moffat said when he was deciding to do that one, he said it's almost like he wanted to do like with Blink was like Alien and Time of Angels is meant to be like Aliens.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I think again I don't want to give too much away because we'll get to it with Jake eventually. I hope.
50,000 years for that one.
Yeah.
Because we have to get through Torchwood and Sarah Jane as well to get to that one.
Yes, we do have to get through Torchwood.
Yeah. But
I cannot wait.
But also there was one other returning villain, and that was the Silurians.
Yes.
By Chibnall.
Which I reckon might be, from the top of my head, because the Beast Below, you know, I think it's a bit sloppy, but I don't think it's terrible. I think the Silurian two-part is probably the weakest story. What am I forgetting?
Victory of the Daleks and the Vampires of Venice.
Oh, yeah. Well, yes.
I'll give you Vampires of Venice, maybe. That, for me, is like similar to Beast Below, but I won't give you Victory of the Daleks. That story is bad. Bad episode.
Please don't stab my camera.
Bad episode.
Jammy Dodgers. Yes, what's next?
Yeah, sorry. But like I said, yeah, the episodes, we'll get to that. But yeah, they did have a few returning monsters. They obviously had the Daleks, the Weeping Angels, and the Silurians. Whether you think that's executed well or not is up to you. I don't really think so.
No, and the thing is, this new era, one thing I just have to criticize, it's something I've just got, it's just a bugbear of mine. Cannot stand Matt Smith's theme. I don't mean I am the Doctor, because I'm the Doctor is brilliant. I mean the actual Doctor Who intro titles. His version of it, I haven't off the top of my head.
It's one of your very few gripes with Murray Gold.
Yeah, one of the very few. But I'm not sure. Just trying to picture in my head the sort of the layers of the song. I think some of the bass and some of the drums were missing, so it kind of missed some of that bombastic energy.
Yeah.
Like there was an urgency to it because it was still the same tempo. It was still quite fast and rhythmic,
feels
but
more like a pop hit.
Yeah,
rather than a extravagant.
We're going on an
piece,
adventure. Yeah,
you know,
it does, because the thing is, Murray Gold writes classical music that happens to correspond to Doctor Who moments.
Well, what I was meaning to say is the RTD themes feel like something you would get in a theatre from a orchestra, except for the first, obviously that was sampled.
And I did, because I went to the Doctor Who Symphonic Spectacular.
Whereas the Smith theme to me feels like something you get on TV on like a Top of the Pops. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's not bad by any means. Yeah. It's just it feels lesser than. And it's not just because of my nostalgia, because themes came after it, which I quite enjoyed. Like, I actually quite like Jodie's theme. The second Akinola version of the titles is great, and I really like, but that's neither here nor there yet. But no, Series 5 is really strong, and I think, honestly, if every episode subsequent to 11th Hour was crap, it still would have been an incredible introduction to the 11th Doctor, because I don't think I've ever seen a more efficient, well-rounded, fun introduction that perfectly encapsulated what this Doctor was about than the 11th Hour. Mm-hmm. It doesn't mess about, it keeps going, it's really fun, it's witty, and it has a great ending where you get a bit of the edge of Matt Smith, but mostly his kind of goofiness with a little bit of the awkwardness, which, not a huge fan of that type of comedy, but clearly it was such a success because that's what they lent on, because that's what most people really enjoyed in it, and there's nothing wrong with that.
I think the biggest admiration for Series 5 is the pressure of following Davies. Was a big one, and
especially because in End of Time, it's like Russell wrote it to be like, haha, fuck you, Moffat.
I don't think that's what it was.
No, it wasn't that. Absolutely it wasn't. It was just Russell, I think, struggling to let go, but it came across as
they will possess my body.
Basically, yeah.
Oh, imagine Colin Baker in the End of Time. It would actually make sense.
Yeah, it would.
It would make a lot of sense. Well, I think it makes sense anyway, but it would make, like, comedic sense.
It would
Fuck you, I don't want to go.
Alright.
Like, he wouldn't be crying, he'd be angry.
I would be so angry. What's next? He'd just shoot the master. Take him.
Forgive me if I don't join you in jealousy.
Blah, blah, blah. What are we saying? What's next?
Sorry. Tone, yes, they went for the fantasy tone, which was very different to the Davies one.
Mm-hmm.
Performances. Settled to roll the quickest. That's, I think you can say that about Smith. Because, weirdly, his first story he actually filmed was The Time of Angels, and it feels like he's been the Doctor for ages, similar to like Tom Baker and Ark in Space. In terms of on TV, The 11th Hour, obviously, I do think he settles in. Like, some of his best performances are actually at the start of his run, which is very odd.
Yeah, I feel like thinking from an actor's, like what an actor might be on a shooting schedule.
Yeah.
When those subsequent series were getting broken up and it was kind of truncated and they were separated into their own individual parts, your frame of mind would change, I think. Whereas when you've got one huge shooting block and then maybe a break and then the rest of the shooting block for the first season where it's already well thought out, you know exactly what you've got to do, and there's that kind of exciting pressure to be like, okay, I've got to follow this. I imagine that would be quite a rewarding feeling, whereas where the other ones got... This is baseless speculation, but I just think, like... Because his performance is still really good going forward, it's just that... A, the writing I don't think is as strong, and B, it feels like he's scattered, if that makes sense.
Well, I mean, I've Series 5 is one of the... It's weird that it's this one, but it's one of the few series of New Who that I know some knowledge about the block shooting, mainly because of Moffat's interviews. And upon thinking about it, the stories that... And you can look this up if you want, that I feel the stories that were filmed in Block A, those include the 11th Hour and the Time of Angels.
Yeah.
Those are the ones where he performs the best.
Yeah. The most exciting.
Yeah.
I think Series 5 is good, despite what you may expect.
Yeah.
I actually quite like Series 5.
Yeah.
It's really strong. So, was it a success? I think
Absolutely.
so. Returning Monsters, we've covered that. Yep.
I will put it in perspective as well. As critical as I am of the stories now, when I watched it for the first time when I was 12, I absolutely loved it.
And I will always appreciate it for branching out to wider audiences, especially in America, worldwide around this time.
Yeah.
Though that sort of led to a generation of
that's
fans
the
that...
thing, that's the thing, Series 5 did the branching to that with its, let's do something new.
Yeah.
I just think in 6 and 7 it went too far, and then it took away from what it used to be.
Yeah, and it... absolutely. But in terms of just Series 5...
I think that's one of the reasons why 5 is such a popular series, because it feels like a middle ground between
the
two.
and it's so accessible, and I always appreciate it creating a bigger market, because that meant the longevity of the show is around. It exists. It's got longevity.
Which is interesting because that's Smith's first series, and he's often compared to Troughton. And Troughton, again, like that longevity of the show, very responsible for.
Yeah. Right. Cool. What's next?
Yeah, that's basically all for Series 5, I think.
It's a good series.
Yeah. I don't, again, like I said, I don't, in terms of its stories, I don't hold it in a high regard compared to a lot of the others. But in terms of establishing a new Doctor, it does exactly what it needs to do, and I think it's a shame that it's wasted because of 6 and 7.
Yeah.
Because they derail what Series 5 does. And it's sad, really. But yeah, very good.
Mm-hmm.
Series 8.
Capaldi. Peter Capaldi.
This one's a hard one to talk about, really.
Peter Capaldi.
Because... there's a lot of weird things.
Dark Days.
Yeah.
Peter Capaldi.
So, overall, I'm not a fan of Series 8. But when you're talking about it as a first Doctor's season, it's very complicated. Because Capaldi, similar to Colin, maybe not quite as extreme on the scale, but Capaldi's performance, I think, is great, but it's not a success. Because Series 8 killed the show for a lot of people.
Series 8 is very lacking in energy. I think Capaldi's great, but is deserved by a lot of the scripts, which kind of... Because it seems like we were saying with the Series 2, each guest writer as well took the direction in a different interpretation.
I think a good comparison to make. So compare something like The Caretaker, which is Gareth Roberts' interpretation of this Doctor, where he is being smarmy and like cocky, but it's with humour. It's like, I'm being a dick to Clara because Gareth Roberts is a funny writer.
Mm-hmm.
Compare that to something like Listen, which is a Moffat episode where he physically abuses her, yet they are still in a relationship of sorts. So, like you said, very different approaches to this.
And the reason I think it's so off-putting is because it's extremes.
Yeah, Into the Dalek as well is Doctor in that allows someone to be murdered to advance his plan.
As we've talked about before in the Doctor's ranking, Capaldi's whole era is unfortunately so inconsistent, which is such a shame because he is brilliant.
Yeah.
And big finish. I don't know what it'll take, but please get him to do some audios.
Capaldi's voice in my ears.
Yes, please. Get me a...
I don't care if it's introspective wank. I want his voice in my ears.
Yeah. Give me just Heaven Sent, but retcon and make it a new audio where it's like, surprise, this is actually what
House
happens.
Of Cards on Gallifrey.
Yep. Yeah. Set with... Yep.
British House of Cards.
Yeah, the
British House of Cards.
The one we want to talk about. Yeah.
Yeah. But
which is really good. If you haven't seen the British House of Cards, it's really good.
Yeah, in terms of the approach the writer Moffat took for the new Doctor, I really, really like the idea. I just think the execution didn't work. Not because of the actor, but because of the sloppiness of the writing.
It felt like every time Moffat tried to write him or give direction on someone to how to write him, he had a slightly different idea in his head. Because he was kind of... Maybe he actually had the BBC in his ears telling him to lessen it.
Yeah.
Because, to be honest, it seems like Moffat wanted to go full...
Well, you look at a story like Dark Water, Death to Heaven, and he really went hard on it, didn't he?
Yeah, so it feels like he was quite in a... Again, baseless speculation, but he was in quite a stressed state and wanted to transpose that into his art.
Yeah.
And...
Though not as stressed as Series 7.
No, because he had the pressure of... Now, do we count Peter Capaldi's debut as Deep Breath or Day of the Doctor?
Deep Breath. Has to be Deep Breath.
Yeah.
Well, he technically is in Time of the Doctor as well.
He is, yeah.
Yeah.
It's hard to know how to fly this thing.
I also think, similar to Series 2, you were talking about Series 2 being inconsistent. He's also not featured enough.
No.
Because Series 8 is all about fucking Clara.
And I'm just not going to dwell on it because it's nearly midnight and I want to not
We've
be
already
here.
had that rant.
Yes. Yes, you're right. There's too much focus on Clara, but it's almost like they were afraid of the 12th Doctor. It's like they were scared to put him on because they wanted to do dark things with him, but they didn't. Either the censors or someone was in the area preventing them, or they just were too scared to do it, or felt wrong about doing it. Whatever reason it is, it feels like they were only. Have you seen Breaking Bad?
No, I've only seen the first 2 episodes. Well,
this isn't a spoiler, but there's a speech someone gives about half measures, where if you don't fully commit to something, it might come back and bite you in the ass. Basically, is what someone was saying, and it feels like that, where it's basically like they're taking half measures on the character, so he feels like half of a realized character, which is such a shame because there's so many interesting ideas presented but never fully realized.
Yeah,
it's like someone giving you a rubber, realistic-looking ham. It looks amazing, and there's a delicious-looking glaze on it, and it might have a great smell that they've made smell like ham, but you can't eat it because there's actually no substance there. It's just all for show.
Yeah.
So it's a facade, and it's a shame because lots of potential, but the inconsistency and the Clara over-reliance, it's just a bit bland.
And weirdly, the series that I would start Capaldi on is actually his last series.
Yeah, and then work backwards.
Yeah.
Actually, no. No, yeah, I don't want the last thing to see is Hellbent, so yeah, work backwards. Or just don't watch Hellbent at all and just finish on Heaven Sent.
Yeah.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah. Were they successful at the end of the year?
No, I don't think so, unfortunately.
Did they go heavy on returning monsters? They had the Clockwork Droids.
The Dalek.
They had... the Cybermen and the Master.
Yeah, so yes.
Yes, they did go a bit heavy.
But they tried different things, like missing...
Also, well, they also had a 4-week... I think it's a 4-week cycle of new ideas.
Yeah.
So writers that had never done it before. 2 of them worked, which was the Jamie Matheson episodes, Mummy and Flatline.
Yeah.
And the other 2 are my least favourite episodes from that series, Kill the Moon and In the Forest of the Night. But I appreciate the going with the let's get some new writers in.
Yeah.
I do like that.
Yeah. It just felt like a lot of the failures comes from unrealized potential for really good ideas.
Yeah. And was it a lighter or darker tone? It was definitely darker. In Series 7, it was definitely darker, especially with the character of the Doctor. So dark that people stopped watching.
Yep.
Unfortunately. And that's unfortunate for me, personally, because I think Capaldi in Series 8 is leagues better than Matt is in Series 7. Not necessarily the fault of the actors.
No,
but
not at all.
In terms of the writing, his Doctor is so much more interesting of a character. Even if it's not fully realised. I mean, Smith in Series 7 is just...
Yeah.
Bad. Really.
This video is going to be 3 hours long.
Great.
But
yeah, they went for a darker tone, and sadly it didn't quite work. And unfortunately in Series 9 it left us with a mess.
Yeah.
Because he had to rebound, which caused him even more problems.
Because, the ramifications of what came after, I'd rather not dwell on.
Yep. And then compare performances, again, like I said, the acting is great from Capaldi, it's just the characterization.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So unfortunately I can't give Series 8 enough, even though I do like him.
Yeah, same. There's brilliant ideas, but it's also one of the least rewatchable.
Well, speaking of least rewatchable, We move on to series 11, Jodie Whittaker's first series. What was the approach the writer took?
Because of the big change in gender, I think he wanted to play it safe, and by playing it safe, he took no risks.
Yep. He made it the most boring series of Doctor Who ever made.
Like, you're gonna do a gutsy move like change the gender of the Doctor. You're gonna be the one to do it, because it felt like it was inevitable, to be honest. But to be the one to do it, and then to do nothing with it? Like, there was... Witchfinders was the only one, except for maybe a couple throwaway lines, where they sort of touched on gender politics. And it doesn't necessarily mean that every episode should have gender politics, but other than that, they didn't... There was nothing presented about this Doctor. It felt like empty. It's hard for me to quantify because I really wanted to like this series, but it just felt so surface level, I think is the term we used a lot during our reviews. And
a lot of the time what happened on the surface in some of the bad examples, I would say, like, for example, I think Arachnids in the UK is a particularly bad example of her Doctor being characterised, because not only is she inconsistent because, like, you know, she's like, I hate conspiracies, I love conspiracies, but also the sense of, like, you know, Chibnall's trying to go down the whole path of the Doctor as a pacifist, right? But it doesn't. But within that story, it doesn't make any sense. No, because not only is she scared off by a spider, which there's no indication of why. It's never explained, and it's very different to any other Doctor who would be intrigued by this thing. She's very easily scared off by it, which is odd. But also the ending of the story warps the whole of the Doctor's moral compass in a weird way.
The thing is, that's happened before to other Doctors. It's just because this Doctor's being established and they're trying to put the pacifist persona on her. Nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, that's fine.
That's fine.
Well,
Give her something. But it gets so muddled, and that's quite indicative of the whole series, because again, with each guest writer, they took a slightly different spin, but it's like the parameters they were given were so thin, and all the guest writers were too afraid to branch out from there. Like, in episodes like the Rosa, they could have done a lot with her, and granted, I appreciate that episode actually focused on Ryan and a little bit on Yaz. That was good. And obviously they gave Graham the big moment at the end. I actually quite like Rosa. I think that's a very solid episode still. But the Doctor is the weakest part.
Yeah.
And that's such a shame. And it's not a fault of Jodie Whittaker either, because you look at her in Broadchurch, you'll see her footage online of her being in theatre, especially Antigone.
I've seen a couple of clips from Black Mirror.
Yeah. She's such a strong presence in so many other things, but it seems to me that they're not writing to her strengths. It almost feels like they should have written this Doctor a bit harsher. She should have had a bit more of an edge to her, and a bit less tolerance.
And I was going to say something.
Not tolerance in terms of, you know, being tolerant to people, but in terms of less time for other people's bullshit, basically. Yeah. She should have been as patient.
I was also going to give another example of the sort of sloppiness of where she's characterised as, in the Ghost Monument, there's a scene where they sort of establish, because obviously, you know, there's new viewers watching.
Yeah.
They establish that she's against guns, right?
Mm-hmm.
But in that scene, it comes after comedy. Like, it's when Ryan runs out and pretends he's playing Black Ops and there's the fucking sniper bots, and it's just this weird thing. And then suddenly she says, no, don't do that. It doesn't feel natural within the script. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah. It
has no purpose. It's just, Chibnall's saying, I need to establish this one character trait that the Doctor has in an episode, so I'm just going to put it there. But it has no purpose to the story.
Yeah, and the frustrating thing is about that is, like, there are character inconsistencies throughout Moffat and throughout Davies. There's tons of that, but both of them respectively had a certain flair that sort of, you know, you could tolerate certain inconsistencies and Because the thing is, I think plot holes aren't as important as people make them out to be. But again, you have to look at the whole picture. And if there's something like that which sort of seems ill-placed and there's nothing around it to really captivate you, it's hard to say because there's a lot of people who really did enjoy this season, but it seems like a lot of people who are just, not that they're not critical of things, but they're not like us in terms of they haven't edited things, they haven't directed things, they haven't been in things, they haven't done this side of the creative work necessarily. This is quite, a blanket statement, but generally speaking, on message boards and things like that I've seen, Twitter, there seems to be just sort of a blanket love, and all the positivity seems to come from the messages of positivity, which are great. But in terms of their place within the stories, they always seem just there. They don't seem natural with the characters. They don't, because the thing is that they not that they're unmotivated, but that they just sort of happen.
Yeah.
Because it makes sense that certain characters would think certain ways, and obviously we don't know a huge amount, especially not about Yaz, other than she has a family, and she's a cop who wants to... actually, she had quite a bit of establishment in the first episode, but then they never really pursued her arc.
Well, I mean, I was talking to Callum last night about how in Series 3, in Daleks in Manhattan, was it Martha helps the Doctor with something about medical? I can't remember what it is, but there's something in Daleks in Manhattan to do with the fact that she is a doctor. Whereas in Series 11, Yaz never has that past the first episode of her being a policewoman.
Yeah, because the thing is, the episodes where I think briefly in Arachne... No! Because they go into the place and then the guy points the gun, the security guard points the gun at them, and Yaz doesn't... unless I'm misremembering, Yaz doesn't go, "Oi, I'm a police officer."
Yeah.
Even though, she's trafficking and stuff, she could have faked it. And there's no flair. The stories just seem to sort of happen. And if you guys like Series 11, please, I'm genuinely interested to hear people's analysis of Series 11 and why they liked it, because there's clearly something I'm missing, and I'm just interested to see what it is that people are so drawn to, because there are people who really, really like this season, but I'm
pretty sure Billy Garrett John likes Series 11, and mainly because I think he likes Doctor Who simple. I know that one of his favourite New Who episodes is 42. I would imagine that's probably why.
And there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. It's just that that's a completely different perspective on Doctor Who than I have and that you have, and nothing wrong with that. It's just really, it speaks to the longevity of the show that it has so many people from all different walks of life who can latch on to different parts of the show.
Absolutely.
And the fact that people still like the show in such a passionate way is fantastic, because it'll keep the show alive. And that's that's the most important thing.
Yeah, I have a friend who used to work at my work, who's not there now, but he was there, who only watches the show for sexual tension. That's it. So he hates Series 11 because it teased it in one episode and then they blocked it. But that's why he loves Matt Smith's era, because that's all it is. With River Song, with Clara.
To each their own.
So yeah, all walks of life.
Yeah. Great. But yeah, I just think from my perspective, they didn't do enough with Jodie. They did a disservice to her as a talent, I think.
Yeah.
I say they. It seems to me, obviously we're just, here on YouTube, but it does seem that it's mainly from Chibnall and his direction. Or his lack of direction. Yeah, there's no clear vision for what to do. And again, for the 15th time, baseless speculation, but it seems to me like it was... They were afraid to do anything too daring in fear of alienating people just because the Doctor was a woman, even though most Doctor Who fans were like, So like, we just want it to be good. We don't like that because the female Doctor's been talked about since the late 70s, early 80s. That's something that's been brought up many a time before. So it wasn't as earth-shattering as some loud minorities made it out to seem.
Yep. Were they successful by the end of the year? I'm going to say no, because all of the people I've talked to who stopped watching the show and came back to see this didn't give a rat's ass about it. They all just thought it was boring and didn't care and didn't want to watch it. And for me, that is the biggest... In the real world, because we got all our opinions and I'm like, oh, we hate Hellbent because it ruins what we like about the show. But in the real world, the real failure is when you just don't care.
Yeah, and the thing is, outside of our GOA bubble and you guys... just in the general public, as a television show that doesn't get obsessed over and analysed like we do. It's just, like, you compare it to, like, Mindhunter or Shameless or so many brilliant TV shows that are on air at the moment. It just feels lesser than, which is a shame, because it has potential to be better than everything.
Yep. But no one really cared.
No. And I'm just hoping that Series 12 comes along and is like, let's get batshit crazy.
Well, I've always hoped that Jodie, it turns out to be like the McCoy of New Who, where the first series is the failure, but then after that she becomes way more interesting.
Yeah, I'm fingers crossed, because again, Chibnall did do Broadchurch.
He has it in him.
Yeah, so he does have interesting characters in it, absolutely.
Did they go heavy on returning monsters or tried something different? They did not go heavy on returning monsters.
No, there was just once in the New Year special.
Yeah, well, that was after it even finished.
So it's technically not in the season.
Yeah, so they went all new monsters. And none of them really worked, did they?
Except for the frog.
Yeah. I suppose King James doesn't count because he already exists.
Yeah, he was a historical figure,
He
but
returned from death.
yes, but Alan Cummings is fantastic in that episode.
Yeah.
And I just wish that Captain Jack was there as well.
Yeah. Though, the thing is, though, I was talking about this on Twitter the other day. Despite the fact that it's all new, when you look at all the episodes, they do feel like rehashes of others. So I said on Twitter, I think I said, The Woman Who Fell to Earth is like the 11th Hour, but 42. The Ghost Monument is like the Keys of Marinus, but 42.
Yeah.
Rosa is like Vincent and the Doctor, but 42. Arachnids in the UK is like the Green Death, but 42. The Saranga Conundrum is like 42, but 42. And shit. And Kablam is like the Robots of Death, but 42. The Battle of Fuck Off is like Journey's End of the Pirate Planet, but 42. And Resolution's like Dalek, but 42. It's all recycled ideas done in the most boring way, and that's why we don't like it.
Because the thing is, like, it's not easy to write good material, especially for something that's been on for so long. But I just wish that more risks had been taken.
Yep.
Yeah. But it's not an easy job.
No.
Not at all.
But it is open to criticism.
Yeah, of course. As all art should be, I think.
Yeah. In terms of tone, I would say it's a lighter tone. In terms of its
aesthetic,
it's hard to say because it's lighter. I think in terms of the Doctor as a character, but then the episodes look so dank and dull.
They look like cold and dreary, except for the TARDIS, which looks claustrophobic.
And like, even though I love Segan Akinola, it's very odd that he was chosen for this Doctor.
Yeah.
They feel very different.
She's quite bubbly and he's very quiet and introspective.
Honestly, I feel like Sagan would have been better for Capaldi's Doctor. I feel like Jodie would have suited Murray Gold more.
Oh god, yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe with the same scripts and everything, if we put Murray Gold's score into the episode, there's an editing project for you. Just put Murray Gold's scores in and see if it makes the episodes any better.
Oh god. Not if it's like Series 7 when it's just the Doctor's theme whenever the
bum bum
happens.
bum ba-dum bum bum ba-dum bum bum ba-dum bum bum.
Fuck the sonic screwdriver.
Yeah, now bloody when you hear I Am the Doctor, it's almost impossible to hum all the strange creatures after that. Bum 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 ba-dum bum bum bum. Bum bum ba-da-ba-da-bum ba-da-dum. Bum bum bum
They do have
ba-da-bum bum bum.
similarities.
Also, yeah. Bum bum
In
ba-dum
terms of performances,
bum ba-dum.
performances.
King James is great.
No, we're talking about the Doctor though. Compared to the others,
She's not bad. It's not that she's a bad actress, and it's a
I
bad.
do find her comedic moments irritating, but that's a minor problem. I just think the overall problem is the character has absolutely nothing to it.
They didn't give her enough to do, and it's not like Davison, where the intention was to strip them back. It just, she feels underdeveloped. Not that.
Well, yeah, she feels like a caricature of the Doctor.
It feels
but not in the way that McCoy is in season 24.
No, it's
that's more like you're giving him a personality of he's being very, very, very silly.
Yeah, it feels, there's bullet points. It feels like bullet points. Which is a shame. I am still, obviously, of course I'm going to watch series 12. But I'm just interested to see where they go from here, because there's no, other than the timeless child, there's no real intrigue about this version of the Doctor. Because Matt Smith was always like, even though he's always bubbly, there was always that side of him where it's like, I'm gonna fucking kill you. And then Capaldi the whole time was like, I'm going to fucking kill you.
Oh, but I'll bring you tea as well.
Yes.
Oh, what is this ugly little girl doing on my TARDIS?
Not at all.
You watch it, Doctor.
She kills, so I don't have to. That's actually a great line from Into the Dark.
Yeah, but anything else you want to say about the Series 11?
I just hope Series 12 has a bit more energy.
Yeah. Okay. So now it's time to rank them.
So,
well, seeing as you've formed it, I think you should start. And if we snap, we'll snap.
So, in 12th, it's gonna have to be, for me, 24.
Snap.
There we are.
Yeah.
It's at least Series 11 has really slick production values, and it's a well-oiled machine. This is just a disaster.
Yeah. Season 24. I know the poll, obviously I asked you, like, you guys thought Series 7 was worse, which is fair, because Series 7's shit. But, in terms of establishing a new Doctor, this is the worst in the entire show. And thankfully we got 25 and 26.
Yeah.
But season 24 is an absolute disaster from start to finish. There's nothing redeeming about it, really.
No, it's not good.
Yeah.
Alright, what's your number?
No, you're number 11 because I snapped.
Oh, yes, my number 11. Let's toss up in my head. I'm gonna have to go with 19.
Season 19?
Season 19.
Okay, and that's not snapping.
Yeah. It's very blank to me. Granted, it's been a while since I've seen it, but much like Jodie, it feels a bit energyless, you know? And the Doctor, other than Earthshock, is kind of just sort of there. And it's a shame.
And the companions.
And the companions, yes. yes. But I don't, it's just, it's not necessarily a mess, it's just quite bland.
So my number 11 is Series 11.
Fair enough.
Again, like we've said many thousand times now, it's very bland. Doesn't establish a Doctor well for me.
Yeah.
I don't like a lot of the episodes. It's just very hard to watch.
You can watch our reactions and reviews where you can slowly see the enthusiasm disappear.
I think it's, like you said, it's a notch above 24 because it's slick and there is some legitimate professional merit to it. But it's not fun to watch.
No.
So yeah,
Yeah.
you're number 10.
My number 10. I was just use on this for a while. Series 11.
Yeah.
Same reasons. It's slick, but it's not particularly rewatchable, I don't find. And it was a letdown for it wasn't... The first female Doctor should have been a big deal, but it just wasn't. And it feels like it didn't do enough to really make an impact. And which is a shame, because it should have been.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, it should have been.
Yeah. My number 10 is Series 8.
Mm-hmm.
I love Capaldi.
Yeah.
I do, but I don't think it's a good series.
No.
There's a couple of episodes I think are alright, like decent to good. Some really good ideas in there, especially. But overall, I've never felt satisfied by it as a whole. I don't like that he's sidetracked by Clara and Danny Pink's storyline, and it's just not what I look for in Doctor Who, really. And there are particular episodes in there that I think are some of the worst in the whole show. I was considering putting it one higher, but I'll explain why it's not in the next one. What's your number 9?
Series 2!
Oh, really?
Oh, really? It's... Yes.
Wow, that's different to what you put on the Doctors. What was it? In the series ranking we did in the Advent calendar, you put Series 2 above
Series 8.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you for why, though. In terms of establishing a new Doctor, I prefer a botched retelling of this really serious Dark Doctor than this romantic one.
Right.
That's basically the only reason why. Because on a lot of levels, they're pretty much exactly the same in terms of my issues with them. It's just, instead of romance, it's aggression or anger or angst.
It's miserable.
Yeah, basically. But it's just, it's taking more risks. And Series 2 feels just, it's entertaining. I like this. From here on, I do actually like pretty much all the, like, not all of every season, but like there is a fair chunk of each season that I do like.
Yeah.
And with this one, that's no exception. It's a big part of my childhood as well. Massive nostalgia. Love the reintroduction of the Cybermen.
Is the reason why you put it above 8 in the ranking is because of the stories?
Yeah, because the individual stories,
yeah.
And absolutely because of the Cybermen stuff and like the ending minus the ending, but you know the ending. And the Tooth and Claw and stuff.
Girl in the Fireplace.
Girl in the Fireplace, School Reunion.
Satan Pit two-parter.
Satan Pit two-parter, of course. No. But yeah, so Series 2 is my number 9.
Mine is Season 19. This one I didn't know where to put on the list because obviously it's the one I've seen the least of. But I put it above Series 8 because of Earthshock.
Fair enough.
Because Earthshock's great and it's miles better than anything in Series 8 in my opinion. And that's basically it. That's all I got to say really.
It's cool.
It is quite bland though, and I don't like the companions, and I think when I see more I might be able to make a better decision on it.
Yep.
But it doesn't, whilst it's certainly not what I look for in Doctor Who, it's from memory doesn't annoy me like Series 8 does. Yeah. So that's basically why. What's your number 8?
Series 8. Same reasons exactly as I just said before.
Okay. Now, this is where it got a bit hard for me. But I did make a decision. My number 8 is Season 22. I love Colin Baker. But I do recognise that it's flawed. Yeah. And it is good. I do like Season 22. I do enjoy it. I do enjoy the stories. But there's too much fan wank. The Doctor is perhaps a bit too harsh. And yeah, it's good. But more entertaining than objectively good, if that makes sense. Yeah. Wait, you said your 8 was Series 8, right?
Yes.
So what's your number 7?
Season 22. I have to go with
Oh,
that.
yeah. Okay.
For the same reasons you said, is I recognise that it is heavily flawed, but I do find it way more entertaining than everything beneath it.
Even more than Series 2?
Selectively.
Right.
The flaws in Season 22 I can overlook easier than the sort of more condensed in-your-face flaws in terms of the characters of...
Series 2.
Yeah.
Okay. So that was your number 7, right? Yeah, I believe.
Yes.
My number 7 is probably a controversial one. It's Series 5.
Knew it.
Good series. Very good introduction for Matt Smith. I like the change of tone. I like the vibe it's going for, and I admire what it did, and I do recognise its success. I just think it's not quite for me.
Mm-hmm.
And that's it.
Fair dues.
What's your number 6? This is quite hard from here because they're all pretty good.
I'm gonna have to go with Series 5. Same
Okay.
reasons you just said,
Mhm.
but only not by much. I think in terms of an introduction to a Doctor and an era,
Yeah.
regardless of what I think selectively of the tone, even though it's not for me, it does it brilliantly. It's really strong.
So is it my number 6 now?
Yes.
Season 4. Season 4's great, and I love a lot of the episodes.
Correct.
I adore Patrick Troughton as the Doctor.
Correct.
But as an introduction, whilst revolutionary, isn't quite as much of a masterpiece as my top 5.
Yeah.
I love Season 4, and when I get to review some of the episodes, apart from The Smugglers, which is terrible, I'm sure you'll get to see... No, I do love it. It's just, I think, for the introduction for Troughton, great, but not as good as the top 5
Yeah.
for me, which is interesting considering one of the ones I ranked above it. But
Yeah.
we'll get to that.
Yes.
What's your number 5?
Season 1. Now.
Snap.
Ooh. There we go. Because it's unique on this list because it doesn't deal with regeneration. It perfectly introduces this new character. However, I think because it had its own set of challenges and it faced them admirably, and that's why I put it at number 5. But there are just the rest above it, I think, handled their particular challenges in a more engaging way.
You know what's interesting?
What?
We stepped on number 5 for this list. We stepped on our number 5 for the Doctor's ranking, which was Hartnell.
Mm-hmm.
And we stepped for number 5 on our series ranking, which was Series 5.
Funny that.
Interesting. I think Season 1 is brilliant.
Yeah.
And really faultless in its introduction of the Doctor and its development.
Mm-hmm.
My only reason it's not higher... Actually, it was very close to being 4, actually, to be fair. But the only reason it's not higher is a slight personal preference.
Yep.
What is your number 4?
Oh, hang on, let me just... What are the 4 I have left?
You've got Season 4, Season 7, Season 12, and Series 1.
Mm-hmm. I'm going to have to go... Wait, say those one more time?
Season 4,
Mm-hmm.
Season 7,
Yeah.
Season 12,
Yeah.
and Series 1.
My number 4 is Season 12.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Why is that?
Wow. It's great. Pretty much, other than the Cybermen, it's pretty much a faultless season. Like, perfect encapsulation, perfect beginning. I don't really have much justification than I just slightly prefer those above it for like incremental reasons. One in particular, I objectively think it's a worse season, but I just think with the challenges it faced, it did it much better.
Right. Well, my number 4 is Series 2, which has some pretty fatal flaws in it.
Love and
I
Monsters.
hate the Idiot's Lantern, and
Love and Monsters is bad.
Fear Her is a bad episode. But I will get onto this more in the recap. I like Series 2 much more than probably 90% of the fandom.
Mm-hmm.
Because I enjoy its flaws sometimes. I feel like that's part of it.
Mm-hmm.
Whilst not as good as the other Davies seasons, it's still Davies.
Yeah.
It has episodes I love. I would actually say, out of the 14 episodes it holds, including the Christmas special, I would say probably 10 of those are some of my favourite Doctor Who. It's just the bottom 3. That's the problem. The filler. The filler is the bad part.
Mm.
Series 2 introduces my favourite Doctor. It has some of my favourite episodes of Doctor Who in it. It has a tone that I love, whilst executed roughly is still in the ballpark. And objectively I'd say Season 1 is better, but for my personal taste, Series 2 is just a slight notch above it.
Mm.
Mainly, I think, because of the fact that I love episodes, certain episodes like Girl in the Fireplace, Satan Pit 2-parter, the finale, those kind of things. I like those on a personal level a little bit more than something like, the Sensorites, the Reign of Terror, the Marco Polo. Whilst great, I love Marco Polo, not quite as much on a personal level as those.
Yeah.
What is your number 3?
Season 4. Purely because, it's neck and neck on the basis of the duty that they had. Because of the challenges that they had to face, I think that Season 4 just slightly, because I think I would much rather watch Season 12 over this any day, because I just think it's so much more engaging, so much more fun. However, on the basis of which handled the introduction of the new Doctor better, because this was the first, and it did it so well, I just had to put it just above. But it's like apples and oranges, and it's only just slightly above, just because I think it was more important.
Yeah. It's a similar how to, I think, Series 2 and Season 1 for me are on the same level. I only put Series 2 slightly above for personal preference, despite the fact that it has more flaws.
Yeah.
So that was your number 3, right?
Yes.
My number 3
Yes.
is Season 7.
Yes.
Because, now, this is kind of a double-edged sword here.
Mm-hmm.
Season 7, why it's not higher, is because it's actually not to my own personal taste. In any normal situation, this season should rank low, in my mind.
Mm.
Why it ranks high is because
That's
it's
great.
so well executed that it makes me like something that I shouldn't. Because
Great.
it takes all of the fantasy and all of the imagination out of Doctor Who and puts it in this small box, but because it's so fucking good, it's third.
Yep.
Brilliant Season 7 is. My only criticism is I'm not the biggest fan of the Ambassadors of Death.
Yeah.
But the other 3 are some of the best Doctor Who ever made.
Yep.
What's your number 2?
My number 2 is Series 1. Because it's great. What's your number 2?
My number 2 is Season 12.
Good choice.
Iconic, brilliant, great stories, great Doctor, great TARDIS team. And the only real flaw, similar to Season 7 with the Ambassadors, the only real flaw is the Cyberman stories a bit lame.
It's weak compared to the rest of it, but it's still very entertaining.
Yeah, but with, Ark in Space and Genesis as the Daleks, you've got them.
Yeah.
You've got a great series with Tom Baker's first as well. Season 12, thumbs up. What's your number 1?
Season 7.
Of course it is.
Because Part 3 is fucking great. And the introduction, such a radical and tremendous change in a different direction. And it's succeeding to not only to not only continue with that for a number of years after, but to have so many elements that were the new, fresh elements on this show to stick around for the rest of the show's existence into all the extended media. Unit is a staple of the show. And so's the Master, even though he's not in that season, but, of that era. But specifically on that season, it just created this wonderful, grimy, kind of semi-political espionage wizardry tone that's so different from any other era of Doctor Who, and it just worked because of the amazing chemistry of all the leads and the wonderful realization of Pertwee's Doctor, which obviously as time went on he softened up, but in this season he makes for an incredibly entertaining asshole.
Yeah.
But it's brilliant. I really love it. I find that I just get so gripped every time I watch one of those stories. I just love that era and that universe and the imagination behind it and the kind of grounding and this bizarre over-the-top science fiction. It's just, great. So, why is Series 1 your number one?
Because it's the best series of Doctor ever made. The end. From the characters to the story to the arc to everything about Series 1, apart from Adam Mitchell, is perfect.
No.
That is it. It is not only the best introduction to a Doctor, in my opinion, not only the best set of stories in the history of the show, not only the best tone, the best showrunner, the best writers, and the most rewarding experience on par with 3 and 4. It is faultless aside from Adam Mitchell. It is brilliant, and I just love it.
Cool.
And nostalgia too.
Nostalgia plays a big factor in all of this.
So, and I was talking before about how Season 7 is brilliant despite the fact that it's not in my ballpark. This is brilliant, and it's in my ballpark. Dalek, Father's Day, Empty Child, Dr. Dance's Bad Wolf, Party the Ways. The Selena underrated. The Unquiet Dead's underrated. The End of the World's underrated. Rose is great. The Long Game's okay. And that's it. That's all I'm going to say.
For more of our thoughts on Series 1, check out our recap and review.
So, as Mahmood, I hope you enjoyed our response to your Patreon request. It's been very long.
3.5 hours.
Yes,
at the moment. I don't know how it will be when it's edited. Maybe about 20 minutes.
Well, I think this, to me, exemplifies not only how tired we are, but how much effort we put into responding to our subscribers when they are putting in the effort to show their passion for us.
We really appreciate it.
Really appreciate it.
Because, we try our best because, as you may have gathered, I'm quite busy, but I do try to put as much time aside as I can for you guys, because you really do seem to show appreciation and support for this channel, and we want to give back as much as we can.
Yeah, but I've hoped you all enjoyed this analysis of all the Doctor's first season, because we are absolutely worn out.
We're buggered, yeah.
So yeah, and hopefully this means that there are some more discussion videos in the future.
And I'm hoping the discourse in the comments is a polite one. You guys are usually pretty cool with each other.
Give your own rankings. Tell us what you think.
Don't be dicks to each other. As I said, we've actually got a pretty cool community of people.
Yeah.
We don't really see too many trolls or dickheads.
Yeah. And again, if you desperately want us to give you our full attention and effort on a video, just Patreon is there for a reason, and it's not us trying to sell our channel at all. It's us.
No, it doesn't hurt. He gets all the money. Yeah. I get no.
No, I don't, because I make sure it gets recycled into this channel. I don't use it for my personal use. I'm very confident in that.
It just basically helps you guys become sort of executive producers of this channel in a way.
Yeah. Well, there's an exclusive access to my testing of some new software on the Patreon.
And there's one audio commentary from me.
Yeah, and there's the wheel and space reaction.
And there's the wheel and space reaction. There's so much bonus content. I feel weird selling Patreon, but it's such a good service.
But as you can see from the length of this video, we are willing to
do what we can.
Reward any effort that you guys have put into the channel. I think deserves rewarding, and that's why I stick to my promise in the Master tier that if you request a video for us to do on that tier with your generosity, we won't just make it shitty and simple. We will put everything we have into it.
Research and time as much as we can.
Which is what I think we've done here.
Yeah, hopefully. Sorry, what was his name?
Azmat Mahmood.
I hope you enjoyed this video because it was a great topic. Like, it was really fun to discuss, and I hope you enjoyed. I hope if you disagreed with our opinions, we weren't too antagonistic. And if you agreed with us, great. I really hope you enjoyed. Thank you so much for supporting us on Patreon and YouTube and just the channel in general. Really helps. So
yeah.
And other YouTube things, smash that like button. We don't care about that. Just have fun.
And yes, so just if you want, leave your comment. Tell us what you think of all these series we've just talked about. How you'd rank them and why we're wrong.
Yeah, no, tell us why we're wrong.
Hey, if you think season 24 is the best and season 7's the worst, then
everyone's entitled to their opinion.
Technically, they both have 4 stories, so they're on equal footing.
4 stories?
Yeah.
Oh my god. The story's about the Force. I thought you said 4 stories.
No, 4 stories. 4.
Like the 4 Force.
Yeah, I mean, you could have Spearhead from Space, which is just that, it's about a bunch of plastic dummies, when you could have Time and the Rani.
Who am I? And who are you? I need to go.
Anything else we want to say before we finish up?
Thank you all. Comment away.
X-Men and Star Wars reviews, and then
videos coming.
Stuff.
He's planning everything. I'm just gonna hop in and out as much as I can. Remember, call this number to support and tell the BBC because the doctor's in distress.
At the moment, she is.
Yep.
Fingers crossed for Series 12.
Fingers crossed.
Fingers crossed those leaks don't become boring.
Leaks?